All right, and we're recording. What is up, everyone? We are here for the first after hours webinar slash podcast. I'm not really sure what this is or what to call it yet, but for now, we're just going to stick with after hours. Anyways, we're kicking off the first episode with someone you already may be familiar with, Choi from Dallas, Texas, representing Take It Easy. Choi is arguably one of the most influential figures in the Dallas dance scene within the last decade. Over the past decade plus, Choi has been competing, judging, performing, teaching, hosting / promoting events, and uplifting the Dallas / Texas community. Choi has been the bridge between the Dallas old school scene and the new generation of current b-boys, bringing up a number of b-boys, including myself, who have competed on international platforms alongside him. So for me personally, Choi has been a mentor since the very beginning of my dance journey and is now a close friend. So I'm very happy to have Choi as the first person on the webinar or podcast. I'm not sure what this is quite yet, but we're going to figure out as we go. Anyways, Choi, welcome.
What's up, Eugene? What's up?
Yo.
What's up, baby?
What's up? Let's go.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, what's been up, man? How is quarantine life?
I mean, don't want to complain, but I mean, it's not that great, right?
Yeah.
It has its pros and cons, for sure. Pros and cons.
Yeah.
How about you? Been chilling?
Been chilling. Yeah, I've been doing good. Trying new things like this whole podcast / webinar thing. But I wanted to start off with, I guess, something that's relevant to the quarantine, which is something you recently participated in during this time. And you recently competed in a worldwide breaking event by Break Free that took place using an online platform. And you also won a local online battle. So can you go a little bit into what that experience was like for you? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Different? And if so,
I think just to go off that, like, I think to begin, I'm pretty sure I'm not just one of the people that felt this way, but it was more of a sense of skepticism, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like I was hating on it or anything, just more like questions, like a lot of us have questions and just kind of wanted to flatten out the details and I mean, it's just a new like platform. It's so hard to answer some of the questions that I had, but overall, like, it was really big eye-opening for me, especially for all the roles that I do play within just my community, you know what I mean? To think on a bigger scale, like, because, like, for me, it was kind of like, oh, it's cool. Like, I guess I'll try, I like doing videos. I like posting videos of me getting down outside. So what do I have to lose, right?
right.
And, other people felt differently, but in the midst of doing all that, like, I start to realize, because I'm starting to check up on like the hashtags of the iBreak Free, competition, online, whatever. And you start to realize, like, this is so much bigger than just me, like so much bigger than just like what I think and how I feel and just my 2 cents, like it really, like, it was really a big humbling experience for me, you know what I mean? So, and there's just like many aspects in it that was really humbling. But we'll get to that. I think leading up to it, I'm not gonna lie, like, I was kind of shocked that I made it. I was kind of like, what? Like, how did I make this? Like, there's no way, like, and it kind of hit me on the day of. It really hit me on the
It
day.
was top 16, right? Or top 32?
Top 32.
Top 32?
I think it was top 32, I think.
Yeah, this was, and just for some context, Break Free, they hosted a worldwide event and they split it up by regions. So there was a North America region and then a Europe region, stuff like that. So Choi made top 32 within the North America region. So I competed online, and I know there was a recent battle where you record yourself and then you post it, and then this one was a live Zoom battle. What are your thoughts on versus recording yourself versus doing it like via webcam? Did you feel like it was different?
Oh yeah, definitely. And just me personally, I think here's the pros and cons, right? Like, if you're recording videos, you get to have a little bit more option in how great the quality is, right? Because you're not running it on an internet or Wi-Fi or whatever. Maybe you could be doing it on a camera instead of a phone, like a GoPro, right? And that's a pro. But to me, like, I feel like when it comes to the live videos, you know what I mean, like, you have to be spot on, you have to be on the spot, like, you got to do it right then and there. So I feel like that element kind of creates a little bit more factual feeling of a jam, right? Because you want to be on like, I told, like, there was, man, I'll tell you this straight up, every clip that I took, it was like the first one, you know what I mean? That's
Hmm.
like the one that I posted, and it was kind of like, man. And I gave myself like I have this moment, right, where I'm recording myself and I'm like, should I do this again? Right? I don't think that was like good enough quality. I don't think it was like my best work.
Hmm.
But like, I had to come to terms with it, where I was like, man, if you were at a real jam, like, you got to kind of throw down right then and there,
Right.
But just retrospective, like, after doing it so much, it's like, I don't think it's necessarily a right or wrong thing, because I think it's a different platform. We do need to approach it a little bit differently. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I think your creativity is more open to your background. Like, people are using props. Like, I think there's storyline you can put into it. Like, it gives us dancers, maybe b-boys, a little bit more understanding of approach. You know what I mean? Because, like, locally here, like, I even told a lot of my the students that did enter, like, I was kind of like, like, I want to have fun watching your battle. I want to have fun watching your clip. Like, I'm not trying to see the next best move. I want to see like the next best movement.
Right.
So to me, it was kind of like an eye opener, because a lot of people. Well, let me speak on my behalf. I'm normally used to performing for my camera. You know what I mean? So I know that people are engaged when they watch my video. It might not be the hardest things, but you're gonna enjoy the fact that I'm entertaining you through this video.
Right.
So I think that's a really big concept that people need to grasp when it comes to the performance aspect of dance. It's not just a lot of big moves, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot more character and just history involved with how you move, you know?
Right.
So that was one thing. Definitely, like, the internet. Like, if you're not in a good place with internet connection, like, it's pretty bad. Like,
Right.
it was bad. you
Yeah,
know?
I was watching some of the battles and some of them like they were lagging
Yeah.
out and stuff. Basically, if you pay for better internet connection, you had a higher chance of winning.
Yeah. It was a
But I
little bit
mean,
like that.
yeah, I think to your point, like it allows for people who can't afford to travel to be seen. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
you can't afford a plane ticket, you can go and like buy like a router or something, and it doesn't cost nearly as much as a plane ticket. You have your internet connection, and you can put yourself out there. So I think it gives a lot of
Exactly.
people a chance. And yeah.
And just to add on to that, like, hindsight of that, it's, man, like, you get to see how different the world is when you put the word privilege in our culture, right? Because,
Hmm.
like, you had people like, man, there was that dude, Matita, from, I don't know where he's from, but he was breaking in like a 5x5 room or a 6x6 room. And you just see him like throwing the craziest moves in the most controlled space. And then you have Gravity, versing him in the finals, and he's got his own studio, which I'm not saying like, like, oh, Gravity, he's all about that. Like, no, no, like, he,
Yeah.
he worked his, magic, he hustled,
Hmm.
and it just feels like a little difference in just like background and privilege. Like, privilege is a big thing that, like, during this pandemic, where kind of that word really hits differently now to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's more of a humbling word. Like, man, I do have a lot of energy and just privilege to be able to do what I do till now.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
but that was like the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah. Do you foresee like I guess like as a competitor or a promoter or even like a judge or anything like that, like if you're gonna participate in the online battles, do you see it do you foresee it being here to stay or something that it's just keeping us at bay for what's going on right now? Because like, I haven't really participated in as much in this platform as you have. Like do you foresee it like here to stay, like in the long run after this whole thing is over, or do you think it's just here to keep us at bay?
Um, I think it's a little bit of both. Right now, like, for us, like, right now, it's like we don't have an option. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the next option. You know, um, but that doesn't mean it can't get better or it could get worse or whatnot. But if it does move forward, then yeah, it could become a regular thing. Which, me personally, I think it's really interesting, and I think it's like, why not? That's the biggest thing is, if you're gonna hate on something, you got to put a little bit of more thought into it and try it. Like, you gotta, like my mom used to tell me, like, if you're gonna hate this, you gotta try it at least 3 different times. And it normally was food. And she'd be like, and I'd take 3 bites, and she would be like, no, I mean 3 different sittings. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna finish it today, but you're gonna try it again 3 more times. And then we'll talk
Oh my
about if you
gosh,
like
that's
it
how
or
she
not.
got you.
Yeah, that's how she got me, bro. So, and I really took that to heart, to where it was like, man, like, because I'm not gonna lie, like, you're gonna want to hate on it, even at the first, second, third time. But the concept behind it is not like, oh, you gotta try it. It's try it enough to where you can put in a solution to make it better for you. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, if you don't like the vegetables, maybe it's the way it's cooked. Maybe you need to figure out different vegetables. So to me, it was like, I can't, like Moy said this in one of his lives, and I was on that live, and he said, this is not a solution, just a step towards another solution. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we don't have the answers, but at least we're trying something to see if it can work and maintain, and I really respected that, because as an event coordinator or a community leader, you're gonna have to understand, like, you're gonna fail a lot, and you're gonna make mistakes on the way, but like, as long as you're trying, like, you haven't really failed, like I
Yeah.
told my son that today, like, as long as you don't give up, there's no such thing as failing.
Right. Exactly. And I think also like just the whole like digital movement of everything going on and breaking, being able to catch that wave of like being mobile or doing like things that you can do remotely. Like we're all like, people are working remotely from home. People are like going out and like they don't have to go to work, like go to their job, some of them. And then some of them, like, you don't have to always like go to your computer. You can go on your phone and stuff like that. And like, it's just so crazy and amazing at the same time to see breaking on that platform. And like exactly like what you're saying, that like a ton of people have a lot of room to like hate on it, but I think that's a really good perspective. With like basically like the times are changing now,
Yeah.
and you can either pretty much stay like a boomer and just reject it and be like, no, like this is the way we do it or whatever, and get left behind, or just be a part of that revolution and try and change things.
And I
um
think that's a big thing, because like our culture is not based upon people sitting on the sidelines and putting their 2 cents in. I think the
Absolutely.
main thing about our culture is participation, like understanding that it does take you to join in on the cipher to be a part of the community. You know what I mean? To be a
Absolutely.
part of the vibe.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, I think everyone should get involved. If you're gonna hate on it, like, get involved first, and then speak your mind, give feedback instead of just like blatant shade. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's a big thing. But in a perfect world, right?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
me personally, I think all that negativity is needed, and it's a balance to the positivity too. Because like, I'm pretty sure the event coordinators or whoever's throwing something, if they feel a little bit of more of a negative criticism, it's gonna put a fire under their butt, and it's gonna be like, all right, well, I'm gonna prove you wrong, or you're right, like, I do need to hear that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think those are really, I just, me personally, just at the age I'm at, I think you need both. You gotta have the good and you gotta have the bad, and take from each and learn how to just cultivate and make sure it's not poisoning you and it's not toxic, but it's more like something that you can kind of constructively work on.
Right. So speaking of age, I want to backtrack. I remember meeting you at a pretty big session at Prodigy Dance Studio way back in like 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And
Oh
from my
yeah.
perspective, and I think a lot of people currently, you've always played this role of like a mentor, older brother type figure within the scene for pretty much like as long as I've known you.
Mhm.
But before that, uh, I guess for everyone listening or watching, quick history lesson of Choi time. When and how did you get started breaking?
Ooh. um I can't really remember the exact date. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even remember the exact year. It was a little bit before Y2K, just when I was in high school. I remember it was like my old buddies. Like, I mean, one of the names that I'll point out is Danny Kim from my crew, big bboy Big Head. He used to be the head spinner of our crew. Like, we would just kind of meet up and chill, and we just be with friends, and you'll just see someone do a windmill, and you're just like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I want to try that. Like, so honestly speaking, I didn't really know what breaking was per se, but I knew certain breakdance moves, right? Because you always start with the
Yeah.
windmills. Or we didn't
Yeah.
have.
You
I
just
didn't
saw
grow
me,
up
you're
in
like, I
a.
want to do that. Like, I just want to do
Yeah,
10 of those and I'm
yeah.
set for life. Like,
I want to be
I saw windmills.
cool.
I'm like, I just want to do windmills and that's it. Wait, so you started before Y2K, so like 1999.
Yeah. Like, and I want to say I didn't really start then, just because like I wasn't going to jams. I didn't know nothing
Oh,
about the
that's when you were
culture.
exposed to
Yeah, I was
breaking.
exposed. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, that's when I first saw it, which is weird because like that's when I first remember it. But my mom had a story where when I was young, she had lost me in an airport. I had just ran off or something. I don't know what happened, but or what the premise was, but she ended up like freaking out and like looking for me, and she went to go ask a security officer, and lo and behold, like there's this group of people just circled around, and she went over there and went to go look, and she said I was on the floor just kind of like rolling around. You know what I mean?
It was windmills.
Yeah, I don't know what it
Oh my
was,
God.
but I remember she told me she was so pissed. Like she was kind of like, as a mother would, she'd be so upset. She was so
Yeah.
worried, and she was like, "What are you doing here? And
He was like, that's
why
a
are you doing
fight.
this?"
Stop doing that.
Apparently, like the story goes, I told her that I was trying to impress some girl, and I was like, "What? I don't know about this story." So I don't know if she made this up or not, but
I
apparently that
mean,
was like,
she doesn't get anything out of making it up, right?
yeah,
So,
right. That's what I was saying. Or maybe she just has a funny story to tell me or talk about me. But yeah, that's been, and I grew up in the generation of like Michael Jackson being on TV, like, I mean, the king of pop, right? Like,
right.
so I already kind of had like this feel towards dance. But exposure wise was definitely during junior high school, when you're starting to meet the cool kids, you know what I mean? And all of that. But I think actually participating and understanding, I want to say, probably 2000, legitly 2002. That's when my mom actually, it was like kind of exposed to me in that manner where it was like she had just heard that Korea had won the Battle of the Year. I don't know if it was
Oh, that's right.
2002 or
Yeah.
2003.
Yeah.
And
Somewhere
she,
around there.
yeah, around that era, and she actually sat me down in front of the computer and was like, "Yo, I know you're interested in this stuff. Like, just check it out real quick."
I
Because she's
remember
very
you doing
prideful.
windmills at the airport.
I
That could have
remember
been
you
you,
doing
son.
nonsense. This could have been you by now. Like, but yeah, she just pointed it out, and I got to watch it, and it was just like, whoa, like this type of stuff exists. Like, what do you mean? Like, what is this? And she was just really prideful that Korea had won something international, and that kind of like threw me into the whole loop, right?
Right.
To me practicing and just randomly like thinking of moves like, oh, I need handstands. Like, Jesus Christ, I practiced handstand for the first year. You know what I mean? I didn't get anywhere with it. Like, I did not get anywhere with it. And I think around like 2000, yeah, like late 2003 or early 2003, I have my best friend. For people that don't know, I have a best friend named Jesse Park who lives in New York, and he was kind of like the guy who, I don't know, connected everyone in TIE. You know what I mean? Because I went to his birthday party around like his like what 17-year-old birthday, 18-year-old birthday party, and I met Patrick Sue there. Patrick was one of the original Take It Easy members, one out of the five, right? And then through Patrick, I met Spencer, and then after I met Spencer, I had met Zeshin and Rocky, and then it just kind of came together in 2002, like 2003, around there. And we were just practicing together with Jin and all that, from Jive. And I
Hmm.
didn't know Jin back then, so I was like the newest one. Like I was the black sheep. Like I was the oddball. Like everyone was breaking, I was still popping, and I was doing moves here and there because I started off with prop.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah. You don't know what
just,
breaking is. You don't know like exactly what everything's called. And so you're just like,
yeah,
all right, I'm just going to do what I think is breaking. And you're just like,
exactly. I got a K kick. I got a
yeah.
K kick. You know what I mean? Like I think I know how to count to six. Like let's do the six
Oh my
step.
God.
Like you know what I mean?
Yeah. As long as I'm stepping 6 times, it should be good.
Yeah, it should be good. It should be
I
fine.
remember me, Nick, and Ian didn't know what Top Rock was. we thought it was sea walking, so we all learned how to sea walk
Oh my
instead of top rock
God.
because we didn't know what top rock was. So we looked up sea walking because that's what we thought it was. So
Y'all just like,
we learned how to sea walk instead of top rocking. Oh, we all
oh
know how
my
to
God.
like kind of sea walk. Oh my god,
I'm not gonna lie, but like, yeah, before I started to learn how to top rock, you learn those little like social dances, right? Those like
yeah,
trendy dances. Well, I guess that wasn't really trendy since it was more of a gang related dance.
yeah,
But no, definitely, like me too. Like I learned how to sea walk first. Like I learned how to glide. I learned how to moonwalk. Like I learned how to like kind of step and strut before I learned how to top rock, which I think kind of like helped me learn the way I dance now. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like that kind of threw me into like, oh, learning all my top rock steps. You know, learning how to break things down as a popper. You know,
yeah.
um, but yeah, definitely like '03. '03 was when I was exposed to everything, and it was just like, oh, you know. And I'm not gonna lie, like I didn't really go to my first jam until like there was an exhibition battle against WSK, and that's the first time I met Joel, Marksman, Empo, Leon the Pro, like all those people. You know what I mean? Like Diverse Souls, like Step One, and it was like when TIA was first starting, and they just started this exhibition battle, I guess. And it was like six of us versus like WSK and Diverse Souls put together. So it was like six of us versus like 16 of them. We were just like, holy crap, where are we? And it was outdoors at a car show.
It's always a
It was a
car
rough
show at
experience.
first. That was
Yeah, it
the
was a
era
car
for
show.
car shows and
It
break.
really was. It really was. But I did go to like jams like Who's Got the Juice, and Elements, and a lot of the Palm Beach Club battles, a lot of the Never Dug Disco jams. These are all jams that were back in the day from thrown by people that are considered like triple OG now, or you don't even hear about them, you know. But I want to personally think like I debuted, um, just coming out and coming consistently after that was in '07 at Triple Threat when TIA was kind of like on a hiatus, you know, it was kind of on a pause, and I had started this side crew called Rhythmic Rockers, you know, and me and JG, we were starting to like really debut really hard after that, you know. So I would pretty much say like '07 is when I actually started to debut and just kind of like, okay, I know what I've done, I know what I've practiced, you know, and I just kind of want to showcase it. Like I kind of want to like step up to the bat or step up to the plate and bat, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's interesting because like to me, if I look at the numbers, it's like, man, '03 to '07, that's like 4 years. Like I didn't debut for 4 years. You know, I didn't just come out and was like, hey, like this is my first year. Like let me get soaked into this culture.
Yeah.
Because you know nowadays people are like, oh, I want to go to the jam and I want to win, and it's like, bro, you've been breaking for like 5 months. Like
Yeah.
just chill out, you know, like enjoy it for a little bit, you know, before you even get in that mess, you know. So I don't know. To me, it's kind of weird when I look at people now. I'm just like, yo, y'all have all the resources, all have all the opportunities, and the just benefits and advantages compared to me, right?
Right.
So I can't really say like don't, but it's like it's okay if you don't come out in the first year, like like cultivate yourself and like kind of enjoy it before you, because like after '07 it was like, man, it was work. Like you're going to every jam, you're training at every sessions, like shit, you go to session and it's like, man, you're still kind of like the newbie, right? And you're watching people like, man, I grew up watching like Leon the Pro, like Worm and Sal from Jive Turkeys, Miguel, and then the Havacoros and like Dizzy, and you're just like, man, there's really incredible people out in the world, and I'm over here practicing windmill from staff. you
Hey,
know?
that's how we do it though.
Oh man, so and I thought it was just like really cool because just a little background of me, like I'm not from the suburbs. I'm a little bit from the North Dallas area. Like during that time, it was a lot more. Richardson was a little bit more underdeveloped. You know,
Mhm.
like my junior high was like, I really think 70% Asians, and
It was
half of them didn't
Berkner,
even speak
right?
English. No,
Berkner?
Liberty. Liberty is my
Liberty.
junior high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went to Berkner for my high school.
Yeah, because my mom, like, she lived in Richardson before I was born, and she remembers, like, like everyone from Dallas that's listening to this or watching this, you probably think of Richardson as like this nice part of like extension of Plano or whatever. But back when my mom, before she had me, she'd always tell me like, I used to live in Richardson. I used to hear gunshots all the time,
Yeah,
like in my neighborhood, like out of my apartment, and then I was so scared for my
exactly.
life. So Like
Like a
Richardson
lot of
back then was
people.
like it's kind of ghetto. I don't know like to what extent, but yeah, like my mom used to tell me all about that.
Well, Richardson is a little bit more ghetto once you go to the edge where it hits Garland. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're from Dallas and you know about the street Audelia and Walnut, like, you know how ghetto it is over there. You know what I mean? That's like, yeah, you hear gunshots all the time. You know, like, I mean, people were finding bodies, type of you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, that was like, man, what? And I mean, the gang violence was high. I mean, recently I just heard that one of my um, old friends, like his little brother, got actually passed away because he was protecting his parents' shop in Richardson, and some guy came in and just shot him. You know, and it was like real recent. It was on the news, so it's still crazy out there. Like I don't think a poor place makes it dangerous. I think even if there's money involved, like it can become dangerous by the people involved.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like with that being said, not to digress, but I came from a background of a little bit more rougher neighborhood, right?
Mhm.
So in I want to say in '04, that's how the story begins. My mom wanted to move me out of the hood, right? The hood. And we ended up living with my aunt. And honestly speaking, like, I mean, I had a pretty bad teenage years. I was a pretty bad adolescent, and I needed to find something. And you hear it all the time, the cliche of hip hop saved my life. But I think hip hop saved my life in a sense that it gave me something to do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So to me, it was like, oh, this is kind of cool because it feels like what I'm used to, like really rough people, and like they got cliques and stuff. And it's not about fighting; it's about like really putting in the work. It's like when you see UFC fighters, it's like, yo, they're so respectable to each other, even though they're competitive. Like like I mean, of course, there's the jerks in the world, but majority of them, like majority UFC fighters or jiu-jitsu fighters that I've met, like they're really humble, and it's like,
Yeah.
man, like, that's kind of what I thought of when I jumped into the scene. I was like, oh, we're going to train, we're going to represent us, and we're going to do it the right way. It's not going to be this gangster mentality, like, whatever. Um, but I did like the whole like engagement of it, like being in someone's face. So the whole competition, the battle, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, like that was kind of like the spark of it. It was giving me something to do, you know?
Right. So would you say like, I think you said you started actually taking off in '07. Would you say that's when you actually started taking breaking seriously, or was there another point where you were like I'm really gonna try and start training now? Was there like another point later
Um,
on, or was kind of like you going out more often, kind of like a natural escalation into that?
I think '07 is like, well, up to '07 was kind of like me learning what I wanted to do or like what I needed to do. Like, but '07 is like kind of like when it was like, okay, I know the material, I know the ingredients, I know the tools. What am I doing? Right? Like, what am
Right.
I doing with this? And I'm not gonna say like I figured it out all at once. Like, there was many times where like my mentors were like sit me down, like Zesh per se would be like, yo, like, what are you doing? Like why are you only practicing on certain things, and like it took me a while to really like learn how to apply myself towards the dance more than just the moves that you want to learn from the dance, right?
Right.
um so I had a lot of phases. I would say like '07 phase of Choi was like, I want to battle everyone, right? Like I want to get out there every session, call everyone out. I want I want my clout, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like, and Eugene, like every session I would go to, I would call people out still,
Even the one where you met me, like you
I
came to the
know,
session and there was a bunch of us like in my generation, and we were all at this
so
one place.
fully.
And then Choi comes in and everyone's like, oh, this Choi guy, like this Choi guy. And I was like, who, this guy? Like this fat guy doing head spins? That's Choi? This is the guy you were talking about? And then
This is the
and then
guy.
like Choi's just sitting there, and then like I see Choi later on literally call out like everyone. He called out Aiden, Matt, Ryan, like
Yeah,
he called out everybody. Everyone he could battle, he battled. And I don't know if you were still in that phase like in 2009, like 2 years later, but it
yeah,
definitely like
I
trickled
was.
over. Like by the time I had met you, you were already like kind of, it seemed like you were already pretty well established. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
from the outside looking in.
yeah, and just to go off of that, I think that just came from my background, like I
Mhm.
did always want to be, I'm very confrontational, and you know me on that. And it's not like I'm confrontational where it's like, yo, like why are you bugging? It's more like, like I want to try something. It's like sparring. You know what I mean? There's no beef, but it's just like, let's just, take this to the next level of training, And I think '07 is when that really like played in my head. Cause like
Yeah.
up until '07, I was training under people where I was in a crew where everyone was better than me. You know what
Right.
I mean? So I didn't feel like, oh, and it wasn't like I was going to call out like Patrick or Spencer or Zeshin, or Rocky. Jesus, like Jin, like these are the people I was like dancing with at the time, So it's
Hmm.
like, I'm like the smallest part of the food chain right now. Like I'm
Yeah.
not trying to bite and get my, butt kicked. So around '07 is when I was kind of like, I came out and I was like, oh, like I can hold my own. Like maybe I should hold my own everywhere I go. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that just kind of trickled over the years and you just kind of forget the sense of time. You know what I mean?
Right.
After you do it so long.
Right.
But yeah, I was a bully. Like Jesus Christ, I still think I'm a bully sometimes.
Yeah. But to think that your mom got you into breaking, she's like, you need to do this. And then you're over now,
You
like
have to.
years later, you're like a bully at this, like the cypher bully.
It's so funny because
Oh,
like she used to be like she used to confuse me because she would be like she's the one who like made me watch it and then down the line she'd be like stop like that big old
yeah.
body on
That's what I
the
was gonna
itty
say. I
bitty.
was like, does your mom like, did she really support you that much though? Like, because I know a lot of Asian parents, like they tend, and maybe it may not be an Asian thing. I don't know. Like a lot of parents tend to see like breaking as like, oh, like this hoodlum thing, and they don't want their kids involved in this gang related dance or whatever. Like, yeah, well, like it's surprised that your mom was the one that showed you the battle of the year and was like, you need to do this, son. And then like years later, she's like, no, like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? That big old body on that itty bitty wrist, like. But I think to go off of that, like yeah, it's crazy how you like hear that traditional perspective where it's like hip hop gangsters, and it's like, what? Like, no, it's not like that. Like, I get it. I get why you think that because the mainstream kind of pumps or Hollywood pumps this idea into you, right? But to me, I was just like, by now I'm at a point where it's like, okay, gangsters are gonna be gangsters. They're not gonna dance. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Like, can you
you know what I mean?
imagine
They're not
some
gonna
just
dance.
like some cholo guy just like,
Just you walk in.
oh my god. So wait,
Which
so your mom did she support you like midway through, or did she like?
no, she like. I mean, I think my mom knew one thing, which was like I had finally figured out what I wanted to do and I was passionate for. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
was like I've told you like years worth of like stop doing this and don't do it or where is it gonna get you? But why do you keep doing it? And I think like there was a turning point in that. There was a turning point in that in the later years when I became more of a community leader and like an event coordinator. She actually helped one of the breakouts, I think, or the Break Yourself Fools, and she came and she cooked spicy Korean rice cake. And I
2013.
had
I
told
was
her,
DJing there.
yeah, 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 so and honestly, like she was like, all right, let's see what it's about. And she came and she like cooked and like in the beginning of the jam, there's barely anyone there, but like by the end of the jam, it's like totally packed, right? And
Hmm.
she was just like blown away. Like all these people came because you threw an event. And I was like, yeah, like, they support my idea, they support my vision. Like there's people who support me, and I think that was like the biggest turning point for her to where she was like, like I've always imagined you being like a figure where like a lot of people where you have authority, right? But I never imagined that it wasn't authority, it was more respect, you know
Right.
and that was like a big turning point for her because I was like, yeah, like all these people here, like all the people you've met through me in dance, you know what I mean? Like they're people that like bond with me. Like we have more than just dance, we like
Right.
actually go out to eat, we care for each other, like we
Right.
still hit each other up, and like I think that was the turning point for her to where I was like,
Right.
oh, like this picture is not just dance. Like this picture is bigger than I imagined. Like you want to be someone that helps out the youth. So
Right. And respect is a huge deal in Asian culture as well. Like once you recognize, like in traditional Asian culture, if someone recognizes like, oh, this person is respected for whatever medium they're using, like it's a pretty big impact. You know what I mean? And I
yeah,
think
it
it's
really
not
is.
like stuck to just Asian culture. Once you recognize that someone is like respected and they're passionate about something, and I think it's a message for like parents or older siblings or anything like that. Like if you're like if you recognize that someone is respected or they love what they do or they're passionate, like there's really, like, even if you want to hold them back, like it's kind of tough because they're just gonna keep doing what they love doing, you know?
You can't stop that, you know, like how, I don't know, like me being a b-boy and like a parent, not only that, but a husband too, like it really puts into perspective like the thoughts that my mom went through when I was like younger. I was like, what are you talking about? Like you're talking nonsense, right? But like now I've gotten older and I have those priorities and those responsibilities. I'm like, man, I really understand where she came from. Like I see why, you know, because she came from a background where it was like she was like, you know, new to the country, like she had to do a lot of things on her own and just all that. So, and she didn't speak the language, right? So
Right.
she's like got this mentality of like panic, 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 panic. Like you need to, you know, just you need to hustle always. You know, like don't even think about having fun. What's passion? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean it's a hobby? Like what about like your future, right? And that's a
You're in
lot of
like
the
survival
traditional.
mode.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. To where it was like, well, I don't know what I'm good at. I'm not a machine like your generation. Like I'm not gonna come in here and just bust out hard work, you know? And you see that more and more with the generations, the younger generations. It's like we've gotten smarter. You know what I mean? We've gotten more advancements in a lot of things. So we have these resources and this just advantage on, you know, really just furthering our future and career, right? Especially with like a lot of entrepreneurship now that's happening. Um, so to me, it was kind of like, man, I do understand. I do get it. Like, it's not like, yo, my mom was crazy. It was like, yo, my mom was a very brilliant woman, you know, like, and she raised me on her own. And to think that it was like, I see why you said all those things, and I really respect it. But my approach is going to be a little different as a parent myself, right? Because like I have my own son, and Philip, he's going to be 10 this year, and I mean he has different interests than me, you know, and that's to me that's like, yo, that's tight. Like you're really interested in something and you're passionate for something, right? To where I'm now, it's like, oh well, I know what I need to invest in, right? I know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
how to
You
invest in.
recognize it now that because you had something to work with as well. And I think that's something like
Exactly.
also like with my parents too. I think it's our parents' generation, like most first generation immigrants, like they come to America and they're in survival mode because like, you know, it's hard, you know, like you don't
Yeah.
speak the language, and like you don't start off with a lot of money oftentimes. And you get in here and you just find something that works, right? You just generate income whether you like it or not, you know. And then our generation um, is privileged enough, and I think like we're both fortunate enough to be able to have time to spend. And like granted, like I didn't really care too much about my high school education, so I used my time in public school to learn breaking, and I'm sure like you did something similar as well. And so we had like time and resources to cultivate like what we like, to find what we like doing, opposed to like what our parents did. Like they came over, they already had their
Right.
education. It was too late for them to go to high school most of the time. And
Yeah.
yeah, they just didn't have time. They had to get here and immediately work. So the mindset is like way different. And like our generation is privileged enough, or at least some of us are privileged enough to, you know, go out
Yeah.
and find out
Definitely.
what we like, and to recognize that in other people and in other generations. I think that's like one of the biggest things that we can like take away just from the differential in the past generation, you know?
And I think it's a big difference too, because like I mean, look at technological advancements we've made, right? Like
Oh yeah.
back in the day, you didn't have Google to translate things for you. Like you know, you didn't you shoot, people didn't even have computers yet. Real talk.
Yeah.
Like when my parents came over, like there was no such thing. Like people, I
Yeah.
remember having an Apple, like the floppy disk, which were like this big. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like at school, just like popping them in, you know, and you didn't have the same like advancements that we do right now. So I even think like it was even harder for the parents or the you know immigrants back then
Yeah.
compared to like someone coming over now. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
like,
definitely.
it's just like that time and era. Like the further we go back, I think the harder it was for the immigrants. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
for sure.
I think moving forward, it's more like the people here. I think it's getting harder for people here. You
Right.
know?
Yeah, for sure. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I want to kind of transition to kind of what I was mentioning earlier. Like when we first met at that Prodigy dance session, I was like, man, who's this fat guy like head spinning? But like, granted, now you're in shape. You look good. And since
Thanks,
since
brother.
we met, you lost a good amount of weight. Like you look like all like I think people don't even recognize you like who haven't seen you
Sometimes.
ever since then, you know? And I think there
Yeah.
are a lot of b-boys out there who are intending to lose weight, whether that's through breaking or through another means. So like, would you attribute your effective weight loss to breaking?
Oh man,
Yeah. Is
that's
there
like
something
a.
supplemental you were doing, or do you think breaking was supplemental to what you were doing to help you get to this point?
I think me personally, like, um, I think I've always struggled with weight. You know what I mean? Like, just to be real with you, like, I've been big throughout my junior high school years. Like, I have pictures of me when I was young, like when I was like 7 and I was like thin, and then by 9 I was like, you know what I mean? Like,
It was like
I
your
was-
mom was like, if you hate it, try it 3 times, and she just made you eat
that's what
everything 3 times. Choi had three X meals
oh
because he didn't
God,
like anything. He just kept his
yeah.
mom just kept feeding him. Oh my god,
But
that's how she got him. I knew it.
that's how she got me. She got me like that. But I'm not really sure me per se like when it started, but I've always kind of been conscious of my weight, you know, like just growing up. I mean, you go through your high school years, you know, and I was in high school, I was like, I want to say like 200 something pounds, right? Like I'm 17-year-old, first born, like first generation American born Korean, and I'm like 200 some pounds, 17, right? And the more older I get, I'm just like, man, I want to look better, and I'm trying things that aren't really working, right? Because like you're not really committed, and you don't have the knowledge per se. And I think when I look back, I think the biggest mistake I made at trying to lose weight was the fact that I wanted answers more than having my own questions, right? Like everyone's always kind of like, and I used to do this, you know, I'm guilty of this too. I'm like, how did you lose so much weight? That question to people is like, give me the answer so that I can use it myself, right? And it's like, and people used to say this all the time, and I would get so upset, like just kind of like a little butthurt when they would say things like, oh, well, you kind of have to do the research, you know, because like everyone's different. Like your body type might not be the same as my body type, you know. And I was like, well, what? Just give it to me. Just like, how do you burn fat, right? Like that's
Yeah.
all I want to know. But the more, you know, like I'll let you know, like the biggest time when it kind of hit me was after I had my son, right? After I had my son, it was like I had gained so much like parenthood weight. I remember looking at this picture of me holding my son, and it looked like my son was on like one of those big beanbags, you know?
Oh
And
my
I was like,
gosh.
Jesus, like, and I was wearing all black, and I'm holding him, and it's just like, you know, he's like this small, like the size of my arm, and he's like laying on me, and I'm just like this big round mountain, right? And I
Yeah.
remember looking at that picture, and I was like, I don't like what I see. You know what I mean? Like it really kind of like hit home to where I was like, I don't want to be that father where it's like overweight, doesn't like it's not even a look thing anymore. Like I want to just be healthy enough to be like, if my son wanted to go play basketball or like go play tag outside or walk outside, that I could be like, yeah, let's do that. You know what I mean? Let's go do that. But I think the biggest turning point for me was when my mom was, you know, diagnosed with cancer. That was when I was like, holy crap. You know, like real talk, like it's nice looking sexy and nice looking good and being whatever, but I don't want to grow up to be sick. You know, that was like the biggest hitter for me. And I just remember like it took me, and you know, I say this in a sense that like my mom was like the turning point, but it didn't hit until she passed away. You know what I mean? And that really hit home to me, where it was like I just lost my mom at a young age, and it was like, man, it wasn't even like, oh, I'm scared for myself. It was kind of like I beat myself a little bit. Honestly speaking, like I kind of, a lot of my close friends know, and like I beat myself in the beginning of my mom's passing, where it was like I should have tried harder. Like it's cause the fact that I wasn't prepared that she passed away, you know, and I was really I was blaming myself, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and one day, like I think it was like one day I just kind of woke up, and I mean, like real talk, just to be real with everyone, I was really in a dark place. I mean, I was drinking every night. Like I just did not want to be there, right? I didn't want to be able to stomach the pain, because for just anyone that knows, like, or doesn't know, my mom was like, she raised me since I was like, what, fifth grade? You know what I mean? Alone. And it's just been us two since the beginning. It felt like it was us two since the beginning. So she was like my best friend. Like, I mean, you know my mom too. She was real cool. She wasn't like your
Mhm.
traditional Asian mom. She'd be like come in like, oh, like, I remember there was this one time, like, she had walked home, or she came home from work, and I had like all my friends, right, in high school or junior high school, and I didn't have like just straight Korean friends. I had many groups of friends, and it was a bunch of black dudes in my house, real talk. And she just like kind of stopped and looked at everyone and looked at me, and the first thing that came out of her mouth was, "Are your friends hungry?" And I was just like, "Are y'all hungry?" And everyone was like, yo, we're hungry, like,
Yeah.
let's do this, you know? So it was just like a real big eye opener to me, where it was just like, man, she's cool. You know, she doesn't judge anyone. You know, she's like here for the cause. She's here for the ride. Like,
Right.
that's what's up, you know? And this was the type of woman that I kind of felt like, man, this is like my family, you know? But I remember like when she had passed, and it was on the day of my jam. Like, I remember,
I
I
remember.
remember that day, but I don't remember that day, if you know what I mean. Like, it was
Yeah.
such a blur. Like, I mean, I was hosting a jam, Break Yourself Full, what, 10? And
Yeah. There
like,
was so
luckily
much
the
going on that
venue,
day.
yeah, there
I
was
remember
so
being there
much.
too.
And it was like the craziest thing, but like, I remember like after that, like, man, it was a roller coaster. Like, I don't even remember that. I don't remember the first year after my mom passed away, but I remember me being in like just a really dark moment where I woke up one day and I was just like, I'm just tired. I'm done with this. You know, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, it sucks that my mom is gone. Like, she just passed, like, after 3 years of caretaking for her, right?
Right.
Um, it wasn't like just out of nowhere. It was like 3 years of just us going to Houston, coming back, going to hospitals, like 6 a.m., driving her. Like, I had my job. I just quit my job just to take care of her and stuff, you know? So I dropped everything thinking, okay, if I just do this, she's going to be good. But in the end result, like, it wasn't enough, you know? So it was a really big, like, it was really devastating for me to lose my mom. But I want to say maybe like 6 months into my drinking, real talk drinking, I kind of snapped out of it one day, and just like, I remember, I don't know how it happened, but I was just like, I don't feel motivated, and I don't feel physically right. I don't feel mentally right. I just do not feel right all around, you know, all
Right.
across the board.
Yeah.
And I remember reaching out to one of my friends. His name's Henry. I forgot his last name. Henry. You know, the buff one.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Middle
Yeah.
East. Man, I hit him up one day, and I was just kind of like, yo, I really want to lose weight, like. And he was like bodybuilder, you know. So I was like, who do I ask? Like, I was real desperate, and he was just like, you know what? Just start small.
Hmm.
Just start small. Like, wake up one day and just don't even brush your teeth. Go out and just go for a walk of 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, don't sit down. Wake up, immediately put your shoes on, go outside, just walk
Yeah.
20 minutes. And that really like sparked everything. Like, I remember I would walk, and then I would walk on the treadmill because I live in an apartment, and I would hate it. Like, I would hate every moment of it. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
I mean, remember, I'm like 220 pounds by now, like just a big blob of mess, right? And then, you know, I'm just doing things, and I think it really hit me when I was like, it was just this one day. I was at this a nature preserve in Plano called Arbor Hills, and it had been about like a year, and by now I'm starting to run, right? I'm not walking anymore. I'm starting to run. Like, I've gotten some running shoes, and I'm like kind of gotten in the zone where I'm like, okay, I used to do 20 minutes of walking, and I did 5 minutes of running, and then I, you know, bumped it up little by little by little to where I was like, man, I'm tired of being on the treadmill. You know, my wife Sunny, she's like, how about you run outside? Because Sunny used to be like a big runner. She was like, she's the one who was telling me you should run, you know, for cardio. And one day I just like, all right, let's go to Arbor Hills. Like, it's right here. It's natural stuff. Like, let's just see how it feels. And that day it really hit me, because I had this like really enlightening moment, right? Where I'm just running, and I feel the sun hitting me, and I'm just kind of sitting there, and just real calm and peaceful. And I just felt like just peace. Like, it almost was like the blame had been washed over me, because I felt like, oh man, in this, and I don't know if it was because I was tired, or maybe I was like, just like the first thing I do is went running, so I'm a little fatigued, you know, I'm
Right.
fasted, but I just felt like, oh man, I feel my mom's presence when I run. You know what I mean? She
Hmm.
would want to be here with me. So it was really like a runner's high type of moment,
Right.
where I was waiting. I couldn't wait till the next morning to go run, right? It
Mhm.
became a thing where it's like, oh, this is like my quiet time with where I get to feel my mom's presence, right?
Right.
Um, And some days it was bittersweet, you know, like it was real bittersweet. And some days it was like, man, I needed this today. You know,
Hmm.
just a little quiet time with my thoughts and just not even like thinking of like, oh, what am I going to do today? Just thoughts like, okay, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. All right, focus
Yeah, it
on
was
that.
almost like
Really,
meditative.
yeah, it was very meditative. Like it really became something that I would remember like I would run the first few days, like the first couple weeks, I would run that trail and I'd be like, holy crap, right?
Hmm.
And then it got to a point where I would run and I would like kind of zone out, and then I'd be at the end by the time I get back into reality. I'm just like,
Yeah,
oh, like I'm at the
you're
end
back.
already. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
like oh man, like where have I been? You know? So I would say probably 2000. Shoot, maybe it's been like 2016.
yeah.
2016 is when it was like really changed. You
And
know?
you've been keeping up that, maybe I don't know if you've been continuing the runs or not, but you've been keeping that like lifestyle ever
Yeah,
since then. So
definitely.
I know you work out like every day and stuff like that. Like, did you ever think that like, oh, breaking will help me lose weight, or like breaking is the answer, I think, to help me lose
Yeah,
weight, or was it
definitely.
like something else? Like, was it just breaking alone that helped, or was it just kind of like as
Oh.
soon as you had that lifestyle change, and then breaking was just supplemental to that?
I think okay, the misconception of that, right, is yeah, I used to think if I break enough, I'll lose weight. But you know, you do like a 3 4 hour session, but it's not super intense. You sweat it a lot, you know, but it's not like you spent 4 hours of doing strictly movement, right? It's not intense. It's very laxed.
Yeah.
And then you'll go out for like hamburgers. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Wendy's.
it's not with the
You know what
intention
I
to
mean?
lose weight. Like
Yeah,
I mean, unless it is with the intention to lose weight, but in your case, it was just the intention to break
yeah.
and then
It
go out
wasn't.
and eat whatever.
And,
So
so, and I think a lot of people do that where they're like, oh, like I'm gonna session for 4 to 6 hours, sweat hard, and then try to eat a salad. You know, and it's like,
yeah,
why? Why would you eat a salad? Like you
yeah,
just burn so much, you know? Like,
yeah,
and it's that type of knowledge like people didn't know, you know, or people don't know. But to speak on that matter, I think yeah, there was a lot of things I did on the side. You know, there was a lot of research I had to do. Like, I mean, your boy could eat like I think the max I ate at Chipotle was like 2 burritos bowls. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God. Now I think about that, I'm like, I can eat a half a burrito bowl and I'm like dead.
and
Like I
put it
have to
away.
sleep.
Yeah, I remember you were portioning out your food, like
Yeah.
every time you ate and stuff like that. You were really strict on yourself, and
And just
yeah,
to go on that, like I want to give a shout out to the person that actually taught me how to do that, which was a monkey from Boogie Monster's family. I had told him one day, I was like, yo, like I see you like doing things like if you like he was very health advocate, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't eat certain things or whatnot. And I asked him one day, I was like, hey man, could you just give me like a tip? Like, what do you do? You know what
hmm,
I mean? And he was like, all right, dog, like, do you go out to eat a lot? And I was like, yeah, I do. He was like, every time you go out to eat, I want you to order a to-go box with your order and split the meal in half immediately before you even touch it. And I still do it till today. You know what I mean? Like you'll see me go to a restaurant, I'm like, can I get a to-go
gems,
box? I'll just like split my meal, you
gems right
know,
there.
right there. You know what I mean? And he taught me there, which was the American portion is too big. You know what I mean? And if you can understand and like control that, right? That's when you start to develop, oh, well, then if I can only have this much, I want to make sure everything I'm putting in that little circle is the right thing for me to eat, right? Because I don't want to feel nasty. I want to feel like, okay, after this, I want to be able to run. I want to be able to go perform.
Right.
That was like the biggest like kicker,
Yeah.
portioning out your food.
Yeah.
Once you understand that, that was like, that's what helped me a lot.
Yeah, it seems like the answers were pretty simple. Like what Henry said, just start,
Yeah.
And then Monkey was like, just go, get a to go box, like
And I
just
think
start.
the biggest underlining thing about that is convenience. A lot of people think losing weight has to deal with convenience. Like, you know what? Convenience doesn't even shouldn't even be in that equation. You know what I mean? Like, if you're looking for convenience, like you're looking for liposuction. You know what I mean? You're looking for a surgery. You're nip tucking it. You know what I mean? You're not
Right,
trying to work it off. You know?
right.
But definitely, like I'm gonna say like, and I hate to be that guy because I used to hate these guys, but you're gonna have to do some research. You know, like you're gonna have to understand that there's gonna be a lot of things that change. Like even right now, like, you know, I don't run every day. Like I figure out new ways of doing cardio. Like maybe can I go outside and kick a soccer ball? with my son in the morning, or maybe I just like walk with my family, or maybe I want to go swimming. Maybe I'll go longboarding. I'm gonna jump rope today, or I'm gonna do an elliptical machine. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do 16 minutes of top rocking only straight, right? Like you gotta start to challenge yourself, and I think that's like a big thing that people don't understand is when you start to approach like, oh, I want to lose weight, you think it's just one program, like one program and that's it, set for life. It's not. It's like your
Right.
program constantly changes,
Yeah.
because your body is very brilliant and it's very smart, and it learns how to
Yeah.
adapt,
Right.
and that's the hardest part.
Yeah. Were there any like noticeable effects on your braking after losing weight?
Um, I want to say mental clarity. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get frustrated as much. I don't want to say, okay, I'm going to be real. Like, just because I ran like 3 miles didn't mean I could top rock for like as long. I still feel tired. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can get better at braking just by like working on your cardio. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't work hand in hand. Like, you got to do the braking part of the cardio to get that, limit, gauge pushed a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more. I definitely feel like it gave me a little bit more freedom in how I could move, but I think there was, like you think of, oh, you got more fit or you lost weight or your workout, but there was like a lot of stuff other than just working out, like the stretching, and like just the conditioning part of it, right? Being more flexible, learning different types of workouts. Like a lot of people like go to gyms and they'll just pump weights, heavy weights, and it'll take them 3 hours, right? And they're
Mm-hmm.
just chilling, they're just bulking out, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not trying to get like that. I'm trying to get dense, and I want to be quick, I want to be swift, I want to be agile. So when you think about those things, you understand that, oh, there's a different program for that. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like you pick up weights and you're going to get bulky. And that's another misconception a lot of people have. You think, oh, if I pick up weights, I'm going to become a bodybuilder. No, you're not. You know what I mean? They have a
Right.
different diet too, like,
Right.
and that's another topic, like diet became a thing, right? Because it's not, even if I worked out and I was like eating Whataburger every night, the next session, I'm not going to feel good,
Yeah.
because my fuel is not the right fuel for my body,
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean I don't eat Whataburger anymore. Man, you got to feed the soul sometimes, like
Yeah.
real
That's
talk,
soul food. But yeah, like I think a lot of people are kind of working towards where you to the point where you are already, like in their weight journey and stuff like that. And like I think it sheds some light on like the whole process and like what what comes out of it, like maybe you have more mental clarity because you're physically like more capable of doing things. You become more flexible, or you don't become more flexible, but you have more capability to stretch, endure, and all that stuff. So there are
I
some.
think diet, when it comes to like your diet, it's not just conditioning your body, but it's something that like really conditions your mind. You know what I mean? Because it does take patience. It's not like, and I'm gonna tell you this, like if people are viewing this and they're like, oh, like I want to lose weight quick, anything instant is not good for you. You know what I mean? I mean, what you're looking at right now is like a product of what, 5 to 4 years of just constant, trying, failing, experimenting, and even now, like during this pandemic, like I'm trying different things, because I mean, I eat pizza here and I'm eating more out, like even my portions have gotten a little bit bigger, which to me is like, oh, it's kind of fun in a sense that like, oh, like it does kind of evolve, it does change, it doesn't set in stone ever. You know what I mean? Like I have to be accountable for myself, and I think a lot of people, they forget that it's like I would always suggest people like if even like some people here like if they're losing weight too quickly, I'm like, yo, you should take a step back and like kind of feel like what you feel. Are you feeling fatigued lately? Are you feeling tired? Like do you still feel strong? Because
Mhm.
if you've lost like what 10 pounds in a week and then the next week you lose another 10, that's 20 pounds in 2 weeks. That's way too quick. You know what I mean? Like that's really unhealthy for you. And I think that's a big perception that people need to get. Like, I know it's nice to look good, but like you gotta feel good too. Like you gotta think you feel good. Like I used to tell Sonny sometimes like I'll look in the mirror and I don't recognize who I am. You know what I mean? And it was just
Mhm.
cause like I look like the blood, the life is just sucked out of me.
Mhm.
I'm like, man, I look thinner than I normally do, or like, and I would just kind of like look in the mirror and just feel down. You know,
Yeah,
like
the
I put
drop
in
was
this
like too
work.
quick sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the diet wasn't right. Maybe it was
Yeah.
like fatigue, overexhaustion, things like that, that you need to look out for when you're, trying, even if you're not trying to lose weight, even if you're just working out or practicing, like all that
Yeah.
stuff is still relevant. It's not just limited to anyone who's like like intending to lose weight or anything like that. Like it happens to all of us. So,
I think that's a big thing. Like, one of the things I struggled with, especially in my journey of this healthy lifestyle, was not the physical parts. Like the physical parts were like then and there, they were hard, but like you get past them. You know what I mean? The
right.
scary part is when mentally you're constantly looking in the mirror and you're just like not happy with yourself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's just like it really beats you every day. And it's like, bro, it got to a point where I was like, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. No, 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 no. And my mind would just like, tell me like if I were to eat that, it's like, oh, I already feel sick.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I've eaten this before, like why do I feel sick now? Like, and there was moments where like I would vomit and I would like my body would react to that because my mind is like I would even have diarrhea where my mind is telling me like something's wrong, something's not right in your body, and it's just like, wait,
Right.
why is that? You know what I mean? And it became a thing where it was like, yo, something's wrong with me. Like
Yeah.
not my body, like my mental. Like I need to check myself again, you
Yeah.
know? So that was like the scariest thing. Waking up one day and I was like, I think mentally I'm like broken. Like
Yeah.
I've like tricked my mind too hard to thinking everything I eat is just toxic.
Yeah, there has to be
So
that
I have,
balance between what you're doing physically and how you're approaching it mentally, and
yeah,
not just like physically like workout, but like your diet, anything you do like with your body or your intake or anything like that, and your mentality and all that stuff. I think it all has to be balanced. Yeah, I think for the most part, you should, like if you're trying to do something like lose weight or diet or whatever, like you should be okay with like, okay, like this is what I'm gonna eat, or I'm gonna portion this out, and this, like, come to terms with that. Like this is what I'm okay with. And if you're not okay with it, if you're truly not okay, then maybe it's time to switch things up. So
yeah. I would definitely advise anyone that's like watching this, like if you're into dieting or you're into your health, like understand that it's your health. You're looking into like don't rush it. Like
yeah,
there's
it's
no
not just
need for you
numbers.
to. Yeah, it's not. It really isn't. Like as long as you feel good. And I'm gonna say this. I There was this day where I got off work at Artistry Motion. It's all the way in South Lake. I just got out of class. I was fatigued. I wasn't eating right, and this was like a really big moment. I don't remember. Well, I got in, and the cashier guy was like this really buff dude. Like he looked like a bodybuilder, and I was like, this guy's working at Quick Trip, right? And I had been in there
Yeah.
for 15 minutes, like legit just 15 minutes, where that section is where like it's like the Nutri-Grain bar or like that section right behind the cashier. It's just
Hmm.
all those bars. And I was just looking at them for 15 minutes and he came by and he was like, "Are you okay?" Like, and I was just like, "Man, I'm struggling so hard to pick what I should eat because like I know I can't be eating anything over there, right?" And he just told me like one day, like he was ringing me up, and I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I ask you like a personal question? Like it seems like you're into your health, you're into like bodybuilding. Like, what do you normally eat? Like how do you gauge? And this really clicked for me that day. Like he said straight up, like it's not if you look good, it's how you feel. Do you feel good right now? Like really look at yourself. Do you like, if a third person point of view, do you like what you see? You struggling to eat something, right? You're struggling, you're being picky with yourself. Like, and he straight up told me, like, I don't think you feel good. I don't think you feel good inside. You might look, I don't know what you look like, but you might look good now, but like inside, like, I don't think you feel good. And he like kind of like just straight up told me, like, hey man, it's all about how you feel
Yeah,
more than
that's a
what you look like.
perspective. Yeah.
You know? And that really like put me straight to where like I was like, you know what, I'm gonna eat something today. And
Yeah.
like I ate, and like I felt better, and I like the next day it was back on track. It was like, okay, well let's get back to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, like the biggest thing I'm always gonna tell people when they do their diet is like, well, what do you want from it? Do you want to look good? You know what I mean? Because if you want to look good, like you can do that any way, any possible. Like it won't be healthy. You can do it in an unhealthy way, and it'll get results quick. But
Hmm.
do you want to feel good? Because if it's a matter of feeling, then like know that it's a long-term investment. You know what I mean? It's not for the short run. You're
Exactly.
not trying to get that beach bod just for this month or this year. You want that
Right.
beach bod for life,
Exactly. Need that beach bod, baby.
Well, yeah, because your boy birthday in the summer.
Boy. Yeah. So I guess we'll switch gears real quick. We were talking a little bit about you hosting Break Yourself and a couple other events in general, but
Mhm.
I remember you hosted Break Yourself Full, and there was like 10, 15, I don't know, additions to that. World of Dance Dallas, Take It Easy Anniversary, and now you're doing Urban Movement Festival in Plano. And so far, I mean, the first ones were janky. Like I went to the first ones and, they're ghetto, and like it's escalated all the way up to being successful events that are sponsored by the city of Plano. And so I guess for people who are trying to start their own events, like, is there any aspects that you overlooked, like when you were running those?
Um, I think now, just being at the age I'm at, when I look back, um, some of the aspects that I overlooked, but was kind of lucky to have, was the support of my community. You know what I mean? I remember like throwing events from Break Yourself Full One, which was at a recreational center, at a random session that a lot of people showed up to. And I just happened to be one of those older guys saying like, "Hey, let's just do a lottery battle, right?"
Instead of calling everyone out, you just decided to make
Yeah,
everyone fight each other.
yeah, it had changed. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of calling all y'all out. Y'all battle each other. Like, I was
That's how
like,
it all
better keep,
started. Oh my gosh.
you know, gladiators, But I don't think, I don't know, me personally, because like I'm constantly looking forward. I do want to say, like, when I look back, there was many things I could have done differently, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm always that guy when I look back, I'm like, I don't want to change anything. You know what I mean? Because things could be different now. Like, so when I look back, I'm like, yo, those are like really good times. We had some hot venues. Maybe change that. Like we had some really hot venues. Like they were like really like when I say hot, I mean no ventilation type of hot. Not
Ventilation,
like yeah,
bathrooms.
And I think I've upgraded in a sense that like back in the day it was more like I want to throw a jam because I want this and this amount of people to come and you know we want to do something just for ourselves. Now it's kind of like, okay, well, I need to invest into my events and get people on board. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it myself. Like, I'm going to tire myself out. I'm going to burn out.
Mhm.
Um, Planning should be done with at least minimal 6 months, right? Like, back in the day, it'd be like, there's a lot of people at session. Hey, break yourself, fool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was
And
so
also, like,
dumb.
we've both been to a couple events not hosted by either of us, but it's quite
Yeah.
obvious when someone's trying to make a quick buck off of you,
Oh, yeah.
like people just host an event and upcharge or whatever, and then they make a quick buck off entry fees, and they're like, oh well, we don't have a cash prize or whatever. Like, it's not really about, like, and not to say like, oh, it is about a cash prize or not, but like you can kind of see through people's intentions. And I think the fact that like you like, oh, we want to have a good time, or like I want to see my friends battle, or things like that, like those are real critical aspects upon like the logistics. Like, oh, like, do we have a bathroom, do we have AC, is the floor
Yeah.
okay,
Jesus. So many. Yeah, definitely. I think, and just me per se, my perspective on things, if I go to a bad jam, that's a lesson learned for me too. Like I don't want any of that bad feedback on me.
Right.
And a lot of people might not know this, but like every time I threw an event, I would ask the most randomest people that were in my friends list that had come to the event. Like there was a year where I asked Brenda Wong, like, hey, how did you like Break Yourself for this year? And she gave me her honest feedback to where it was like, oh, I didn't like how you had the all styles in one side of the room and b-boys in a different room. Like we had to pick, and like that was an honest like feedback to me, and I was like, I really appreciated that. So like, if for me to give any advice or any of the things that I kind of overlooked was I wish I had more feedback. You know what I mean? Like I wish I got more of like, and you see all the Google reviews and like things like that. And, at first, like when you look at those things, it's just like, oh, people want to talk smack or praise people, but it's like, yo, these businesses really probably, if they're a good business, they'll thrive on that feedback. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They'll go back to the kitchen or the back to the drawing board and they'll actually try to make things better if they're a good business.
Right.
And to me, that was like the whole aspect of it, right? Like
Right.
I want to do good business. I want to do good. I want to be able to live up to my name. You know,
Yeah.
like if people say like Choi has a good jam, like I want the next one to be even better. You know what I mean? Like it's like as b-boys we shouldn't be competing against everyone else, but we should be competing against ourselves. Like, are you really getting the results you want? You
Right.
know, and I just kind of like tied that in with like a lot of my event coordinating stuff, which was like, and I think a lot of people make that mistake nowadays where it's like, oh, I threw a good event, I just need to do the same thing.
Right.
And it's like, bro, it's not like that. Like I have meetings with the city of Plano, and it's like when I go there, it's like we're there for one reason, and that's to make solutions, and that's to
Hmm.
make this better. How do we make more people come? Like you, it's not a bunch of like, oh, like I think it'd be cool if we do this. It's like, okay, this is what we did last time. What are we doing this time? Different. You know what I mean? Like it's
Hmm.
always kind of like fresh. Like what do you want? Like, and it's crazy because I'm like a independent contracted event coordinator for them, right? I'm a vendor, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I'm coming in, giving all these ideas, and then they put their ideas on the table, and then we kind of pick at each other's ideas, right?
Hmm.
Like, oh, like I think we should work on this, or I think we should
Yeah.
work on that. And people, that's the crazy thing. People will not be so open-minded to that type of criticism, or that type of like feedback, like um, discussion, right? Like trying to bounce off ideas. Like if I
Yeah.
say like, oh, like I want to do a b-boy piece, and they're like, well, we really don't think a b-boy piece would be good. Like, can you find something else? An average person will probably be like, no, we should do this. You know what I mean? Or like, like I don't want to work with you anymore.
Mhm.
It's like, well, you got to kind of not give in, but like,
You got to play the
you got
game.
to,
You
yeah,
got to
you
be
got to play the
receptive and
game.
you got to play the game. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you can't just sit. It's not the game you built. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not. So you don't get to make all the rules, but you do need to abide by the rules. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's something like I was taught by Serge, from the brothers, like Masters of Mayhem. Like he was the one that actually helped me out the first time I threw UMF, which was like he made me realize one thing, like don't be scared to get a no, right? Because
Yeah.
a no can mean a lot of things. It can mean maybe not right now. It can mean we're not at a position to do this. Like we would love to, but we can't. It's not a I don't want to. And that
Hmm.
was like the biggest thing. Like the biggest life lesson to me was don't be scared of a no, because that just means like, well, how hard do you want to try after?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like what are the steps after that, right?
Right.
So Serge was a big influence on that. And that's just like one of the many people. Like even like okay, like I'll put it into perspective. Like the first breakout you threw was like
Hmm.
a really turning point for me. Like I still have the card that you and your guys like wrote down for me, and I was just like really moved by that too. Where like I tell people now, like you know what, like I only throw events because moments like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Moments where it was like someone was inspired and influenced to do something that I do just to give back to me, which
Hmm.
was like holy crap, like it was like mind blowing really for me. Like
Yeah.
at that age, like what I had got a 24-year-old Choi about to have his son, y'all threw a jam. Like I was like, yo, I haven't had a generation do that for me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
To where retrospective, it was like me understanding like, oh, I know what role I play in the scene now. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like I see like where I'm fitting in as a community leader, and people are starting to recognize that. So what should I be doing? Okay, then let me try to pay it forward. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, so that was a really good turning point. I think a lot of times, like when I throw events, like I know some majority of people are there for the event, but to me, it's like, man, you could be anywhere in the world. Honestly, you could be doing anything you wanted today, but you wanted to show up and you wanted to be a part of this experience and part of history.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't
Right.
understand, like, yo, again, that word privilege, right? We're
Right.
pretty privileged to be what we can do here in the States.
Yeah.
But it does definitely take like the legwork to throw an event. If you cannot manage multiple gears moving at one time, you're not going to make it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you definitely have to understand that the legwork is there. Like, you can throw an event.
Right.
Anyone can throw an event. But to throw a good event, oh.
Hey.
Hey, yeah, you want to say hi? This is a recorded video. This is my son,
Hey.
everyone. Hi. say hi, Uncle Ethan.
Hi.
All right.
Wait, I'm on camera.
Yeah. That's my son. But yeah, if you're gonna throw an event, like, there's so many strings and so many things you have to constantly be pulling at. You
Yeah.
know, like, there's so much legwork that goes into it. So like, don't sit there. You know what? Throw an event. Then you'll understand how hard it is, and you'll start to appreciate. That's when I started to appreciate jams more. And I normally go to jams nowadays just to like, it's like, what's the word? You're going to test things out. You're going to look at things. I want to see how everyone else is throwing things so that I can have my own opinion on how my event should go, right?
And you can appreciate it more. Like you go to you know when you're at a good event, you're like, this is a good event, you know, and like
Yeah.
you appreciate it that much more. It's like not something that kind of like breezes by you, you know.
Yeah.
I think it comes out of
So
being receptive, like what you were saying, and I think also like it comes out of being able to recognize like, you know, like there's a lot of gears in motion, and like you got like some
definitely.
people like learn how like they have to play the game sometimes, and if you're hosting an event, you're gonna have to play that game too. So it's
Yeah,
kind of like
definitely.
from both ends, like from a contestant or like a competitor, or someone who's like going there and someone who's hosting it or a part of the event. So yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. So
Um,
oh, sorry. Oh, I guess between teaching and hosting events and winning jams and judging and performing, some of your income has been dependent on breaking, and me as well. Do you deliberately differentiate between your break life as a means of work and then break life as a means of relaxation and enjoyment? And if you do, what does that line kind of like look like? Do you have any sort of line that you maintain your work-life balance between everything that you're doing?
I think, yeah, that's a really good question. To me, I feel like what I'm doing in my break life kind of feeds into how I teach too, you know? And that being said, it's like I'm still learning things right now. You know what I mean? Like, and it's full circle, you know what I mean? I think it's kind of crazy. Like I'm telling people nowadays, like, hey, you need to join in Eugene's live stream, right? Like your live stream. And it's like, why? I'll get the question of, or excuses of, oh, I'll do it next week. And I'm like, you're not going to live up to what you want to be if you're going to always constantly say that. It gives me opportunities to be that person, right?
Right.
Which, again, hindsight, I'm hearing my own words, right? And I'm hearing it. I'm like, oh, I should take my own medicine. I should take my own advice. So I'll join the chats. You know what I mean? And I'll be like, all right, let's stretch and let's get this freeze. And then, like I've been dancing for since '03, and in 2020 I'm learning how to do an air baby freeze. You know what I mean? Or like, you know what I mean? And I'm learning new things. So to me, it's been kind of I want to say it kind of feeds each other. You know what I mean? My break life and my teaching life. It's like I don't want to be that guy who's just like, oh, I used to be around. You know what I mean? I want to be that guy that's like, I'm still around. I'm still teaching.
Right.
And for me, it's like my students that are constantly learning under me, it's like, well, I'll beat you when you're old. And I'm like, well, I might be getting older in age, but this
Yeah.
blade is not going to dull out yet.
Good
You know what I
luck.
mean? You still got some time, like you're good. You know what I mean? And it's just crazy to see how much like drive that pushes them, because now I have a group of people that are trying to beat me, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta stay accountable so that they don't beat me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really give and take. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not always like, yeah, let's go teach class.
Yeah.
Like
For
I
sure.
personally have more fun, like, or more satisfaction from just being able to help someone. You know what I mean? Not someone that's trying to get good, but just someone that needs guidance. Like, man, every person, like, I've kind of used breaking in the medium, and we've gotten kind of like closer. It's been more personal than just breaking. Like even you and me, like, I think I can talk to you about anything. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be just about breaking.
Yeah.
We'll just like really just talk about anything, and I think that's like the beauty in it all. So to me, it's like I have to stay relevant. I have to, like, if I want to connect with the next generation, or if I want to be a part of my community, that's me. I feel like I have to be relevant. Like I have to if I'm going to talk the talk, I got to walk the walk, you
Right.
know? I hate, and I always tell a lot of my students that like you'll never see me be that coach, you know, where you had that coach where he's in gym and he's telling everyone how to pump weights, but he's the most like obese guy in the school. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy. You know,
Yeah.
I want to be the guy that's like do that move, and then they'll be like, no, you do it. I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? Like I will do it.
Yeah.
You
That's what I
know,
have to do
like
on stream. I'm like, I already did it on my
yeah,
opposite
right.
side.
You know what I mean? And it's just like a sense of accountability to me. Like
Yeah.
it's like to be able to preach something and to be able to live by it. They're two different things, you know.
Hmm.
And you see a lot of that nowadays. And I'm not, throwing no shade on nobody, but I don't want to be that person where my history gives me authority, right?
Right.
I don't think that's right. I
Right.
think everyone has a sense of perspective. My history is just my own journey that I get to look back on and that I get to enjoy with the people that were a part of it. That
Hmm.
does not give me entitlement to anyone. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I think that's the wrong sense to have. Like, so to me, that's like my own testimony to myself. Like, if you want to be that guy where people listen to you, like you got to be able to, believe in the product and be able to try the product yourself.
Hmm.
Like I don't believe in that just ironic, like condescending picture, bro, of like me telling everyone to do it and then they tell me to do it and I can't.
We all know
It's
that
like,
guy.
yeah, we all know that guy. You know what I mean?
But
There's always a few,
yeah.
but
But
and
yeah,
that's just like really
exactly.
humbling for me. You know?
Yeah. I think like you mentioned accountability, especially like, especially when you're teaching dance, and
Yeah.
even if you're hosting events or anything like that, you have to stay accountable, and that's something you hold yourself to. But sometimes like holding yourself accountable when in means of work, like I'm getting paid to do this, or like this is my source of income. But me personally, like I want to stay accountable. Sometimes the lines between work and your personal life kind of get blurred. Do you ever face burnout? And if so, how do you recover that sense of like enjoyment back into like enjoying your personal life with the dance?
Um, do I get burned out? Yeah, I'll say there's times where I get burned out, but again, like it's hard to say because I don't put them in the same furnace. My teaching life and my breaking life, they're not in the same furnace burning me out. Like to me, like whenever I feel stressed from teaching, I kind of take it out in the breaking life. Like I'm stressed because of a certain reason, right? They're not getting it or they're not acting a certain way, or like I'll give you a good example. Like um and I struggle with this still. Like there's times where like Royal is one of my private students and he's a 7-year-old kid. You know what I mean? And there's times like I hope one day he watches this when he's older and I'm like, man, there's times I forget he's 7. You know what I mean? Because I'm training so many older people and I really like there's days where me and him kind of bump heads really heavy and I'm just kind of like, you need to push it. You know what I mean? You need to
Mm-hmm.
push it. And then like that class will end and I'll be on the way home and I'm like, man, I was real hard on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was not, I shouldn't have been that hard on him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What takes me back to the drawing board to where it's like, he's a 7-year-old kid. He doesn't want to train. He wants to have fun. So you need to make your classes fun. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like back and forth because I hate going to sessions and it's business, bro. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
like going to sessions and I like to have fun, even if it is like the fun is masking the training. Like it's still
Mm-hmm.
training, but it's kind of fun. But I hate going in. I'm not that type of dancer. I don't go in and just like train like a gym. Like
Right.
you always see me like get down a session. Like I
Right.
always throw down quick, and if I'm gonna train, I'll train alone, conditioning wise,
Yeah.
because I look hella stupid conditioning. It's like working out. I got my face, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, but definitely like being involved with both. It's kind of like, oh, it really like keeps me on the edge of my seat to keep everyone engaged and try to keep everyone entertained. And
Mm-hmm. You have to
it's like,
deliver because people are paying for a service, opposed to like you're going to practice. No one's asking
yeah,
anything of you. You're not getting paid. You can do literally whatever you want. If you want to push yourself, you can. If you want to not push yourself that day, you're more than welcome.
right.
Yeah. I think that's
It's like medicine is, a little easier to swallow with a little bit of sugar. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the concept. But I do burn out, and if I burn out from both, then I just take a break.
Hmm.
Like I think I heard Why Not say this in one of his interviews online, and he was like, "I don't dance every day. I don't session every day. I session when I want to, and it could be once a week. I could be twice a week. It could be 4 times a week, but I'm
Hmm.
in control of when I want to get down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's certain times like where I used to be hosting session a lot, and there's just days where I'm like, man, like I definitely don't want to throw a session today. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if no one shows up, I'm like, yes. I'm like 30
Yeah.
minutes in, I'm leaving. I'm out. Like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna dance for 30 minutes. I'm gonna leave. But there's other things that I do to pass time. Like I play League of Legends. Like a little guilty pleasure right there. But and that's just because like I use it to keep in touch with my best friend in New York. And I like to longboard. I like to paint. I like to draw. I like to do just like little projects on the side.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So if I'm ever stressed out from breaking or where I'm like too injured to dance, like it is a good like step back for me to just say like,
Right.
okay, take your time, take a deep breath out and deep breath in, and like catch your breath again. Just to say like, okay, like you're not quitting. And I think that's
Yeah.
another thing. A lot of people think like, oh, if you take a break, you're done. It's like, no, you can rest. You can
Hmm.
take breaks. That doesn't mean you're quitting. You do need to learn how
Right.
to rest and recover. But yeah, I mean, I definitely get burned out, and I'll do other things. I have so much things on my plates. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I think a lot of people need that, especially people that take competition as like their main career path or whatever. Like it does become like work, and the lines do get blurred. It stops
yeah.
becoming fun, and just to be able to have things like that definitely makes it a lot easier to swallow, like you were saying. Yeah, I guess back when you were talking about surrounding yourself with better people, not by choice, but like you were with original Take It Easy, like you were the worst one in the group, like Zeshin, Patrick, Spencer, and all of them. Like, did you have, I guess, since then, like being the lowest tier out of the group back then, how has your practice evolved into like
Oh,
what you do now? Like, I mean, obviously, like I think it has to be different. How is your approach to practice different?
I would say it's that's definitely a good question because it's definitely different now. You know what I mean? It's more structured. Like you've already been through it. When you walk through the fire, you already know how it feels. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's not like, oh man, today's the hardest day. It's like, oh, today's meant to be hard. You know what I mean? Like I already know how hard it's gonna be, and it needs to be that hard. If I don't do it that hard, then I'm, I'm wronging myself. But definitely when I go to sessions, what's the biggest change? Like I don't go to a session and stay for like 6 hours. That is not a
Mhm.
thing anymore. You'll rarely see me stay for 6 hours. If I'm there for 6 hours, I'm in trouble or something. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I'll go into session and I try to knock it out in two, maybe even
Mhm.
1.5. Like I'm trying to be there and just like get it in, get it done. Keep it intense.
Mhm.
Um, but definitely structure. Going like a lot of people, and I ask this to a lot of the younger gen, like if they're in the car with me going to a session or like I meet them at session, like the first thing I ask them is the same question I ask myself, which is, what do you want to work on today?
What do you want to work
Like,
on today? Yep.
yeah, what do
That's
you
what
want
I
to work
asked
on
you
today?
all the
And it's crazy how many people respond with, I don't know. And I'm just like, so you just came here to show off? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, you must have had something in mind. Like, may it be one move? Like, oh,
yeah.
I would for sure want to get flair today. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
one flare. Like, and I think a lot of people's approach is either they go and they have a lot of energy and they want to spend it all, or they like go with this like mentality of like I only want to work on one thing, you know what I mean, by myself, or like they're really well structured and they're doing it by themselves, or they do it with a group of people. Um, but a lot of times people go into it with especially even me, like I would go into session just like, man, I'm going to meet up my homies. You know
Yeah.
what I
Back in
mean?
the day,
Like,
like I just want to
yeah.
see my boy Spencer
I
shoot.
just, I just want to see people do some crazy stuff. Like if we do something today, cool. If not, like whatever. I still get to see the homies, right? But now it's like, oh, we're here for a purpose. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like we can have fun, but we can, we got to work on it too. Like we got to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely changed to where like, especially, yeah, like you were saying, like I was kind of like the lowest tier, right? The underdog. And I don't really consider myself the underdog in my own scene, but I do still feel like, oh, I'm the underdog within the Texas scene. You know what I mean? Like I
Mm-hmm.
still feel like I'm still climbing the ladder right now, which keeps me kind of like accountable for that. Yeah, definitely different in a sense that like no
Mm-hmm.
more BS, right? Like no
Yeah.
more sitting around. No more like you're here to work and let's put in work. And the biggest inspiration motivation I got in life was my wife. All right. And you remember this story where like Sonny once told me like if you're gonna be spending X amount of hours away from me, you better be putting in the work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You better not be sitting down. Like you need to like get it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like I really took that to heart one day, and I was like, you know what? Like you are right. Like I am putting this much commitment to it. Why would I not? It's like, like an employee compared to an owner of a business. Like an employee is just going, time to clock in and clock out the timesheet, right? Compared to an owner where they're like thinking about that business day in and day out,
Yeah.
and that was like the different turning point for me where I was like, yo, like this is something I'm prideful for. This is something that I'm passionate about. And I'm only going there and half step in, then yeah, like I'm doing something wrong. Like that
Yeah.
was a really big like it resonated with me still to today.
Yeah.
Like whenever I go to session, I'm like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I only have a certain amount of time. Let's get it in. And I'll hear Sonny's
You're the
voice like,
owner of your breaking.
yeah, exactly. Like my own. This is my business right here, right here. I got to do good business. I got to be thinking about
Yeah.
it.
I
So
gotta own
that
it.
was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like what does like an intensive practice look like? And like when you go in intentionally, like I guess like currently, because I know you've had like a couple different things. It's just like your workout, like your body adapts and then you start to change it. So like what does like what like currently like what does an intensive practice look like? And then what does autopilot look like? Like what do you catch yourself like practicing when you're not really thinking when you're on autopilot? Do you just like work on rounds, certain moves, lapping? So like what does intense look like, and then what does autopilot currently look like?
I think, especially, it's hard to say right now during the pandemic because, like, whenever I go to session, it's like, there's no autopilot. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're here for a reason now. And we might get kicked out. You know what I mean? Like, I've been sessioning outdoors a lot on concrete. Um, okay. There's one thing. There's a thing that I do, and I know a lot of people do, which is a bad thing to me, is you get inward, right? You'll start thinking about ideas and you'll just sit there and you'll just like creatively be in your head thinking, oh, this would be cool if I did this, but where would I go? You know what I mean? And you'll sit there and you won't realize how much time is passing you. You'll just sit there and you'll think. And I see it everywhere at sessions, especially in my city. Um, and I do that too, to a point where it's like, oh, like stop sitting there and thinking about it. Just put it on paper real quick, And I say that to a lot of people, like just put it on paper. Like even if you mess up, even if it's ugly, just put it on paper real quick so you can get it off your chest. Um, a real intense session for me is kind of like every session now. It's I go in there immediately. I put my stuff down, tie my shoes. I go like, okay, I need 5 minutes of tops, like real tops, not like run through it. Like, hey, boom, 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 boom. I'm like really taking my time, like, and I'll tell you straight up, like when I practice tops, I have like a 4 level kind of I want to say training program that I do, a circuit, which like the first step, I'll just focus on grooves, struts, and just composure and presence to where I'm not using any top rock steps. And it's okay if I do. And then the second one would be to add steps, top rock steps. Um, and that's not like, and you can't just be using like, oh, I'm only going to use all these fundamental steps. Like you want to be able to understand how to get creative, right? And then the third level is to use your hands. So I'll sit there and just autopilot my legs and just use my hands. You know what I'm saying? And it sucks because like you feel dumb, especially like if you're not used to it and you're not comfortable with it. And then the fourth level, it'll be storytelling, learning how to like really capture people and engage people in what you're doing. So it's not a bunch of feet work, right? Like you're not just looking at a bunch of feet tapping around. It's like, man, this guy's dancing. Like a good example to me is like Joel or Judo from the Brothers. Like when I watch him dance, I'm like, yo, like he's putting something down like on paper that I'm like really feeling, you know? Or like Checo from MZK or Jive Turkeys. When I see those two dance, I'm like there's a story they're trying to tell you. Like it keeps you captivated in what their movement looks like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's like the first thing I do is top rocks. Like get in there, top rocks, like, and I use that as not to start the blood flowing, but to kind of get used to your space, right? Because it's always like awkward at the beginning when you go to a new session or you go to a session and everyone just said what's up, they drop their shit and then they're like
They
starting
sit
to stretch.
down and then go to that
Yeah,
like that mode.
yeah,
Like I'm just gonna do
internal
my
mode,
thing.
like
Yeah.
introverted, you know? So to me, it's like, okay, if I can get this top rock circuit going, then I've already broken the ice to my training. You know what I mean? Like, here we go. Like, this is the first like step. This is the first like uphill that you're gonna feel, right? And then after that is when I start to get into like, okay, I can either take it two routes. One, you can do what I've kind of like before the pandemic, what I was doing, which was I'd run all my rounds, right? Just to keep them fresh on my mind, like, oh, I'm running through the movement, running through the rounds. And I would like run them like as if it was a cipher. Like if there was a circle going on, okay, this is my first round in prelims. Boom, 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 right? And then I go back and do it again and do it again, do it again, right? Um, and I would just go through it. And then I would start to work on other things. But lately, I've gotten to a point where it's like, okay, I watched this thing that Rockstrite does. Shout out to Rockstrite. He does 10 rounds of death, right? And he'll just go into it and just like do as many things as he can, 10 rounds straight. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I think that's a really good approach in the sense that like you get to time yourself, you get to see results, you get to see numbers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like even me, like I start to feel the fatigue by fifth round. I'm like, oh, now I got to be real conscious of how I step or I'm going to get injured, right? I'm
Right.
like, I can't just be like freestyling, you know, I can't just go
Yeah.
pop off and put the safety off,
Yeah.
you know? So it definitely makes you slow down. And if you've ever done 10 rounds of death, and I don't mean like you went down, did some top rocks, did a go down and did like 5, 6 steps. I'm talking about like rounds, like
Yeah.
taking your time and
He
like
was saying
breathing.
like, and I think it was 10 rounds of death. He was like, do 3 of your hitter moves, and then
Yep.
but don't worry about making it a set. Worry like just transition into them. Do you like freestyle into those 3 moves? Make sure they're intentional moves, and then like you have a full round, like do a full round, and then get up and then go
Yeah.
again. So it's not
And
just
that
like you're
really
just
helps.
throwing random stuff. You're like you have to go in with intention for each of those rounds. Like oh like I like
Exactly.
the first round I did this step, and the second round if I do something similar, like no, I'm going to move that to the round number 5, you know, like so something like real
Exactly.
intentional. I remember watching that video. It was good the way he
And it makes
approaches
you
that.
really like conscious, you know, like about what you're doing. Like a lot of people will like freestyle and they're like, oh, I don't remember what I did, you know, and it's like, well, lately I've been doing the 10 rounds of death where like I try not to remember too much of technicality, but just like the feel like, oh, I was thinking about this movement. So that's what kind of came out and manifested when I was thinking about that movement to where I'm not thinking about like my A to Z combo, right? Where if I mess up in between, it's like, oh, shatters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot more stress relieving that way. I'm not beating myself so hard. I'm just like, oh, you're tired, but you're creating new things and your body is experimenting and you're learning from that, you know? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. Me, I've been on both sides of the coin where it was kind of like, why do you need your foundation, right? Like, I want to work on the stuff that is unique to me, right? Um, to where now I'm like, I see why you need your foundations because it's still a dance. You know what I mean? Like, you got to get down. Like, you gotta. And I see this a lot in my scene where it's like a lot of experimental movement, but not enough fundamentals. So it's like you don't really look like a b-boy. You know, you look more like an all-style dancer. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like you don't really got the same angles as us, you know? And I'll tell a lot of some of my students that I'm like, yo, like always bring it back to the breaks. You know what I mean? That you not bringing it back to the breaks shows like your how far you walk in those shoes. You know what I mean? You're
Mm-hmm.
not ready for that, you know?
Right.
So yeah, definitely like it is it is a hard training. You know what I mean? Like I don't think anyone should go into training just like to either show off or pop off. Like you should go into a little bit structured, and definitely stretching. Like I don't do it as much when I'm sessioning, which I should, but I do it a lot when I work out. You know, like I
Mhm.
have a routine where I do stretch a little bit of in the beginning and then a lot after I'm done. You know,
Mhm.
and that's research too, because a lot of people they go into session and they'll, like I said, they'll drop their bags and they'll go straight into that butterfly sit, right? And they'll start to stretch, and it's
Yeah.
like, bro, you just got here, like warm up a little bit, you know? Like you hear it all the time, like warm up. I think warm up is like the most important thing,
Mhm.
like to any conditioning, any training, like, and that's not just like the fact of like getting into it, you know, like building that momentum, and it's like so you don't get hurt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're gonna pull things, like especially like the further you get into this rabbit hole, right, of learning all these moves, you're not practicing six step anymore. You know what I mean? You're
Right.
practicing all these like whips and wraps and hooks that are gonna pull your hip and put your body in different positions. You know, like if you're not warmed up. I
Mhm.
mean, like people go in there and like the first thing they'll work on is dead man, and I'm like, what? Like you're crazy. Like start with
Yeah.
a handstand at least. You know,
Yeah.
like they'll try to throw a flare, and I'm like, you haven't even done any like leg swings. You know, like you're crazy.
Chill. Yeah. Like
Or
no
you
stretch
are,
gang. No stretch
yeah,
gang.
that is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's like a very important factor to training, like
Yeah.
structure. I think a lot of people ruin their efficiency in how much they can excel by neglecting structure when it
Yeah.
comes to training.
Lacking structure, definitely. And it shows like in battle too, which is kind of what I want to transition to next. So
Okay.
like if you're like not structuring your rounds, like or anything, if you're not structuring anything at practice, well, just be frank. If you're not structuring anything at practice, you're not nothing's going to come out in the battles. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But for you personally, like you already kind of have a structure and you kind of already established yourself, like at your own practice, like I want to do this, I want to do that, or whatever. Before going into a battle, so between like when you're practicing and when the battle actually happens, do you have any sort of like physical or mental prep that you take, or any sort of approach that you take before you go into a battle?
I do. Like, well, like on the day of battle or like leading up
Yeah,
to the battle.
day of battle or going into the battle. Like it can be as specific as you want.
I'll say like if I'm getting ready for a battle, you know what I mean? Like, I'll tell you what I do now. I'll probably take about like let's say there's a jam on May 30th, hypothetically, right? And it's May 1st. I'll probably take the first 2 weeks to just like really drill my stamina, right? In a sense where it's not like I'm just throwing myself at session. It's like, okay, I'm gonna control it so I'm not getting injured, right? But I am still keeping consistency, trying to figure out my execution and just being able to look organic and natural as I can, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then probably by well, let me start. Let me speak terms more. I have two things that I work on: composition and composure. Yeah, and they're very important to me because the first 2 weeks is composition, learning how to create my rounds that I'm going to try to perfect and execute on the day of battle,
Right.
right? Um, and that composition will be the way I throw my rounds, what my rounds are filled with, like what I want to show, and I'll sit there and I'll record myself. You know, like I
Yeah.
recently started recording my rounds to where I'm like kind of nitpicking myself because I want to see my rounds like from a different perspective, from
Right.
not from my point of view, right? I want to see it from a third person point of view, or maybe like my opponent's point of view, or maybe even a judge's point of view. You know, so I'll put on the side. But I definitely work on composition the first 2 weeks. And then the third week, I'll work on probably composure, learning how to have presence and battling an individual with it so that I can be able to say, like, oh, like, and I'll tell people that battle me, like, you can talk smack, you can do whatever, like, go as hard as you need to. Because I'm training my mental more than just like my physical. Because by then I should have my physical down.
Right.
You know, I'm seeing how much I can work that physical sense in under pressure, you know?
Right.
So I work on composure by the third week. And then let's say the last week, I normally just try to focus on my diet. And it's kind of weird. Like I won't dance that week, you know. And for me, it's like I try to like get that itch by the time I get to the gym.
Yeah, like it
You know,
feels
I
it's
want to,
refreshing when you're
yeah,
battling and doing that stuff. I kind of do that too. Like
you know what I
you're
mean?
just tired. Sometimes like you train so hard, you're just so tired of it. And by the time you get to the gym,
Yeah,
there are times like I've been burnt out. Like I go to the gym, I'm like,
yeah.
man, I'm already, I'm just gonna run through this, you know?
And it's just stale. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like, oh, you're
They'll,
run through this all month. You know, it's like
yeah.
I do this all day, so like I want to take some time away.
Yeah.
And that last week is probably the hardest week because
Hmm.
like first day is like, I'm cool. I just need to focus on my diet. Like I'll work out, and then by like the fourth day, you're like, oh man, there's normally session today. Like I normally host session today.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of itching to get down, and you'll be like cooking, and I'll be just, ugh, I just be doing
Yeah.
this stuff in the kitchen, you know. And I'm just like itching, but I think the hardest, and that's just like the month leading up to the event. The day of, like, man, I don't know if it's, and for me, like I intermittent fast, so like in the mornings I normally don't eat, but
Hmm.
that week end of the jam, like let's say it's on a Saturday, Friday I'll probably carb up. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'll probably carb up heavy because I know I'm not trying to feel full the next day. You
Yeah.
know, I'll try to eat. I'll really like focus on my diet as much as I can, just
Yeah.
that week leading up to the event. You
Get that
know?
immediate energy like the day before
Yeah.
the jam. Yeah. I'll do that. I'll do
And I
that
think
too.
and lately I've been kind of like, well, there was at the playground, the jam that Beast threw. I actually made sandwiches that day so that I could be eating at the jam just like little amounts constantly. I made croissant sandwiches for the crew, and I think it's a much more just financially efficient way to eat and keep yourself healthy when you're doing events. Because man, that's bro, like Floyd, for example, like he won't eat on the day of the jam, and I'm like, bro, you're going to pass out. Like that's not good health wise, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and then we'll like devour after the event, right? It's like,
Yeah.
dude, this is so bad for
And it
us, you
also
know what
eats
I
at your
mean?
pockets too. Like you'll
Yeah,
splurge, especially if you win
yeah,
the jam.
so bad,
Go out there, you'll
bro, so
splurge.
bad.
So
Yeah,
definitely a financial thing that a lot of people overlook.
yeah,
Which I mean,
definitely.
if
Like,
you're okay with that, then like have
yeah,
at it, you know. But
so it'll be what you got to do, you know. But
yeah.
definitely, like, it's just that right there. It's a month. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and people are like, dang, that's a lot. But it's like, bro, you session every day.
Right.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean? You can't just structure 1 month to get ready for an event.
Hmm.
It's like it's like preparing for a test in school. Like you can't
Right.
just like show up on the day because
Right.
you go to class every day. You know what I mean? You can't just show up on the day of the test and be like, I'm going to ace it. It's like, well, you
Yeah.
still got to study on your own.
Yeah.
You got to figure out ways to, get that knowledge and apply it so that you can regurgitate it when time is needed, you know?
Yeah. And for those who are like, oh, what if the jam is like 2 weeks or 1 week away? Like, I think the more you do it, the better you're able to scale it. Like maybe you can
Yeah.
condense it to 1 week. But like if it's your first battle, like you probably be giving it a month, or whatever, or you may not even think about it. But like if you're early on in the game and you're trying like different things, like a month is a good way to do it. And the more used to it you get, and maybe a 1 week, 2 weeks, the same thing like might work for you. I don't know. Like it's gonna be like the more you like the better you are gauging yourself and how you're feeling. Back to what you were saying, like like the better you can gauge how you're feeling, like you'll get more like established at running through the like basically like that jam prep, like on a faster scale. Like let's say a jam comes up, or just decide like, oh well, I don't have enough time. If I don't perform at my best, like I'm not gonna battle. So
And I think that's another thing. Like people need to stop. And here's my thing. I'm never going to jams thinking it's the last jam I'm going to enter. You know what I mean? Like people have this mentality, like this stigma where it's like, I got to blow up at this event. And it's like, just do you. You know what I mean? If you do you, you're going to blow up. If you've been training and you've been putting in the work, like real talk, you know? And I think a lot of times people beat themselves really hard when they don't get the results they want from an event. You know what I mean? And it's like, bro, like, you're just getting results. That's what it was about. It wasn't the results you wanted. It might not be the results you cared for, but it's still results. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Now you get to go back in the lab and put it to the test, you know? Like
Mhm.
I feel, especially nowadays, people validate themselves too much on a W or an L. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's like, bro, like it has not. That's three people's opinion on one round. Not even your whole arsenal, just one round. You know what I mean? And yeah, let's be real. Maybe you didn't hit it right. Maybe when you hit a move, that judge was just so happened to blink or like they just missed it. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
maybe they weren't even looking. Maybe they
Mhm.
weren't being good judges. Like, don't beat yourself. So I think that's an interesting concept because like we're in the era of competition. You know what I mean? For me,
Mhm.
like I kind of got to see the end of the war era, right? The people where people were just going to jams and it was all a lot of pride on the line. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to get this cash money, right? This prize cash money. Like nowadays, it's like, oh, I'm trying to win because if I win, then people will notice me. And it's like, what? That's such a
Yeah.
twisted way of looking at it. You know, like I notice you and you don't need to win jams. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
all it really takes. It's just to show up and participate. You
Right.
know.
So what? I guess by the time we actually get to this jam, or in your like stepping up to actually battle, what's your focus right before you step out to battle the guy in front of you? What's your focus? The music, execution, the feeling? You know, some people just like, oh, I'm just gonna let go. For me, like I try to focus on the execution. I kind of get tunnel vision. Like what's like I can't really help mine, but I wouldn't say it's like something I intentionally focus on. But what's kind of like that focus or that feeling that you get when you're battling?
That dang, that's another good question. I think, and it's like very conflicting because there's days where I'm totally different to other days. You know, like some days it's like business, business, business. Like I'm here to set a tone. I'm here to get past. I'm here to win, right? And I think those events, I feel the worst in. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm just like I've set myself up for failure. You know what I mean? Um, the jams that I do, where I feel like I do well at, is I kind of go into it with like, you know what, win or lose, like you just gotta have fun. You know, like
Yeah.
I personally like the jams that I've entered with people that I like vibe out with, because in the end of the day, it's like, yo, win or lose, like we came, we did what we had to do, and we did it together.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's like the best feeling to me. It's not like I would hate to win with someone that I do not feel that bond with. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like it's like, bro, it's not that great. Like, cause you're gonna go off and do your own thing. I'm gonna go off do my own thing. Compared to like, if it's people that are like, I'm really close with. It's like, what are we doing after the jam? Celebrating. You know what I mean? What we were gonna do to begin with. Like even with
Yeah.
this W or L, like we were gonna celebrate anyways. You know what I mean? The fact that we got together and did this. You know. So when I the first thing I think of when I step into like the battle, right? Like my first thought is, and I always do this, and a lot of people will realize it or maybe not have realized it, but I kind of say a prayer to, and it's just a little prayer that I kind of say, and it's weird because like I'm kind of like I'm not as Christian as I thought I would be, but I kind of say a prayer to my mom where it's like, you know, if you want me to win, let me win. If you want me to have fun, let me have fun. If you want to have me do both, then let me have both. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll just say that in my head and I'll kind of like, I'll hit my chest and I'll like kind of get myself awake, you know, just like, all right, let's have fun.
Yeah.
And by then, if I ever say that and by the end of it, I'm kind of like, do I want to win or have fun? You know, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I want to have both, but let's go with the fun route first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think even if I lose, if people are entertained, then that's more important than a win to me. Like when people
Yeah.
can leave the event and say like, yo, like Choi's not really made me feel a certain way. It's like,
Yeah.
yo, like I kind of feel like I won. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think when I go into it, it's like I want to be entertaining, I want to be engaging, and I want to be captivating, right? Like if
Right.
I don't hit my moves, that's fine. Like you should be able to improv. You know, this is a dance. Um, and I think recently I started hitting or trying harder moves because I remember like you and Chan or JG and my crew, y'all would always throw moves, and I'm like, man, I want to be able to do that in my rounds too, you know? Like, so lately I throw a little bit harder moves, like I'll throw dead hands and move
You
like
got those.
actual
You got
movement
that dead man
around.
on lock though.
Yeah, you know, and it's just like to me that was a real big testimony because it was like, you know, like you're always kind of doubting yourself, especially me. I'm a very big like style eccentric person. Like I want it to be revolving around like my unique movement but I also want to have difficult moves and dynamic moves, you know, because I want to be able to respond to someone that does have something like that, you know, or be able to say like I have something like that too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started using those moves and starting to actually execute them, I was like, oh, like, you know, there's a little bit of gratitude in this area of my breaking too when I do hit it. You know, it's I can't overlook that. I can't oversay like, oh, well, it's all about the style. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's not. You know, it's about
Mm-hmm.
like just being happy with what you can do and what you are able to do at the
Mm-hmm.
moment. You know, so it's been a it's interesting. It's interesting how like I don't know if I keep breaking and like I would stay competitive for the next 5 years or 3 years. Like I'm pretty sure that Choi will have a different perspective on it too,
Right.
because like my character development as a person through breaking has evolved so much. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I think that's just an amazing journey to me.
Yeah.
So I don't think of my breaking as like a passion to that's like really just such a shallow word for like how I feel about my breaking. Like it's more than just a passion. It's like a
Yeah.
lifestyle. Like I can imagine myself doing it till the day I die, you know, and I might not be competitive with it, but I'm still always gonna be thinking breaking. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like and that's just like to me is beautiful. So I think the person you see now is very structured. You know, the Choi
Yeah.
you see now is very structured and is a little bit more seasoned. But that doesn't mean I'm like at the end of my rope, you know,
Right.
or at the end of my road.
Right. I know it's late. I have a few more questions. And all right, if we're good to go, we're good to go. All right. So,
Two boys
um,
nocturnal.
no, I hate to keep you up. Wait,
Hi.
it's been like already like 2 hours almost, but it feels like it's been like 45 minutes.
Yeah,
But
right, right.
yeah, so going back to, you were talking about like, how your mom saw you as a community leader and like you teaching and, even from my generation, from like the past, I've been breaking for 11 years. So for the past like 11 years, even more so, even more than that before me, like you've been kind of like a community leader staple figure in the Dallas area. And I know Dallas in
Mhm.
particular has had a lot of discussions expressing the frustration of growth within the scene of the community. And a lot of people who have been in your shoes have dropped off the scene completely for their own reasons. And it may not be related to frustrations. I don't know. I can't speak for them. But
Right.
where do you develop your optimism, or maybe optimism's not the right word, but where have you developed your proactiveness to continue to push through that frustration of the community not really being willing to work, or like really being like molded and shaped by your efforts? And it's not just your efforts, it's like, everyone's. But because I know there are a lot of people out there in other communities in your shoes, and it's not specifically in building a scene, but more so being able to like overcome that frustration and continue to do what you do despite all that, because it's been like a decade plus.
Yeah. Um. Oh, that's another good question. I'm gonna say like it's a little bit of a sense of just pride. You know what I mean? It's a really big sense of pride for me because again, like I didn't come from an area that's more privileged. I came from an area where it was like my background is real rough, you know. Um, and to be able to have nothing for like X amount of years of your life and to be able to gain something, like it's hard to let go of that. You know what I mean? Like I told Sonny the other day, like my wife, I was like, man, I've been breaking for like 17 plus years. You know what I mean? And that just like that's half my life. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I've been doing something for more than half my life and it's just gonna get more and more. It's like, man, I must really like this. You know what I mean? Because if I
Yeah,
didn't like it, I wouldn't have stuck with it, you know?
exactly.
One thing in my life that I stuck with, and I'm like kind of prideful of that. Now, with that being said, like, I mean, you're talking to a guy who went from 220 pounds to like right now I'm like 176 pounds. You know what I mean? And that was 4 years worth of stuff. And that was like after I'd been a caretaker for my mom for 3 years. Like when I look at those years, it's like 7 years, and I was still breaking at the time. It's like, yo, those are the hardest years of my life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like moving forward, it's like, what can be harder than that? You know what I mean? I'm not going to say there isn't, but like by the time I get there, like I want to be so headstrong and so just like level headed at the same time and be able to have that integrity and perseverance to say like, well, I'm ready for the next challenge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the next problem? What is the next issue? Like, I want to be that community leader where it's kind of like, I'm not here to point fingers. I'm just here to stop the holes with my fingers. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to say you did it. I'm like, okay, well, there's a hole. Let me just put
Yeah.
that there. We'll
Yeah.
think about a solution. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like just in human nature, that's a thing. As human nature, we like to complain a lot more than create solutions. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And to me, I've always been that guy that wants to prove or like kind of be the guy who's you know, walking the walk, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't mean I don't get frustrated. Oh, I get so frustrated. You know, like
Absolutely.
even you, like I've told you, like if people don't know, like I write in a journal. You know what I mean? Because as a community leader, I don't get to just like blast my negative toxic thoughts because I'm human too, right? And I'll write it in my notes and I'll write it in my journal. I'll go back onto them and I'll like really just sympathize and empathize with myself. Like, man, this is what you were feeling that day. Like, it's okay to be that person. And like, why did you feel that way? And then I'll start to question and get deeper, you know? And that's just like, to me, again, it all comes back to my own self-respect, my self-value, right? Like, I don't need anyone else in the scene to tell me like, oh, Choi, you're dope. Like, if you tell me I'm dope and I don't feel dope, it doesn't really do anything for me. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying like your words don't have value. Like, I appreciate them, but in the end of the day, I gotta be happy with myself. You know?
Right.
So all the frustration that my scene might create is just like it's like a relationship. Like a relationship can't be perfect. You know what I mean? It has to have its like bumps in the road so that you can develop, I guess, a learning curve in how to get better at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's something, and it's something my father-in-law told me, and it's like kind of like stuck with me, which was his analogy of just a relationship is two rocks on the beach when they first meet. You know, they're not smooth with each other, but as the waves constantly push and pull against those two rocks, they smoothen out with each other. You know
Right.
what I mean? And that analogy to me is just like everything I do in life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like even as an event coordinator, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like the first meeting I had with City of Plano wasn't like, oh, I've been here before. It was
Right.
like I came like dressed up and I was like, yo, I'm here, like, yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
no, ma'am, like, you know, and now I'm just like, I'll go there, I'll look chill, and I'll be like, hey, what's up, ladies? Like, how
Yeah.
y'all been? You know? And it's just like, you know, you look at those moments and you're like, man, me now compared to the first meeting I had, it's like, oh, I've changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Me now to the first jam I went to has changed a lot, you know,
Yeah.
like, so it's a little, it's a, I don't know. It's hard to say because I do get frustrated.
Right.
But to me, it's like if anyone in the scene drops it, I'm the first one to go pick it up. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
let me see what I can do with it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
one man's trash is another man's treasure, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm really about that, you
Yeah.
know?
I think there's a lot of people who like they see that responsibility, but they don't really treasure it as much. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's not like even if it's like, you know, it's like what you're saying, a relationship. Like if you care enough and, you know, like even if it means work, like you see a responsibility, you see something you have to fix. If you care enough about it, you know, you'll do it, you know?
definitely.
And even if it's frustrating. So I think like just having that, you know, realizing that passion translates more so like out of the dance in that like kind of spills over into the community. Like I think that's kind of like where you kind of draw the line between like, even though I'm frustrated, like I'm still gonna go after it. And it's also a little bit of pride too, like what you were saying. But I don't think, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like if it's something you love doing, then there is going to be a sense of pride in that, you know?
And I think a lot of times, like, it kind of shows you, like, your own characteristics, you know, as a person.
Right.
Like, are you the type to run away from problems if it gets too hard? Or are you kind of hard headed to even, or stubborn to say, like, yo, this might not work, you know? Like, and
Yeah.
there's times where, like, I have to, because I'm the hard headed type, you know what I mean? I'm like, yo, sometimes you got to say like it's okay that it's not going to work. You know what I mean? And just try something new. You know, like try another one. You know, instead of just giving up completely. Just like, okay, take what did work from that and put it into something else. You know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned that you have been in the game for 17 plus years, and you've kept up with the time since then, and the meta of breaking has changed a lot since then, obviously. But it seems like you maintain a lot of relevancy, not only in the competition scene, also like through performing, hosting, judging, even DJing. And for those looking to stay in the game long term, like you, is there something in particular, or maybe like a certain mindset they need to have, or a certain practice they need to maintain that if they have a desire to stay for the long haul?
Definitely. I think there is a sense of being authentic to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's just like I wanna break so I can win jams. You know what I mean? Like, be authentic to yourself, because once you can embrace that is when you can actually structure things. You know, and that doesn't mean you need to start off with like, oh, I need to be this and stay with it. You know what I mean? Like when I first started breaking, you know, like just any other people, I wanted to be cool. You know, I wanted to impress the ladies. I wanted to fit in. You
I
know.
just wanted windmills.
Yeah, I just want windmills. You know what I mean? I just want like 3 windmills, please, just like three, and then whatever, maybe like a flare, just one flare. You know,
Yeah,
just
that's all
one
I'm
flare.
asking. I'll stick with it for 17 years, I promise.
Yeah, I'll stick with it forever if I can just have 3 windmills and one flare. Which, yeah, I've stuck with it, and I have 3 windmills and one flare. You
Yeah,
know,
17 years later.
yeah, but just be authentic. Like, just be real with yourself. Like don't. And I'll say this. There was an advice that was given to me when I first started teaching, like at a studio, right? And this advice was given to me by one of my, like, I consider him one of my really good friends, like probably a best friend of mine. It was Zeshin, you know, Zeshin from Have a Quarrel. He told me straight up, and I asked him one day, I was like, how do you feel about me teaching? You know, because like he was like kind of like the guy, the mentor of mine, you know? And I was like really kind of like just conflicted, because like I finally have an opportunity, and it was at Revelations. You know, y'all were sessioning there, and then Fenton was like, "Yo, like you should teach here." And I had a interview with them, and in my interview, I had to show them like what my curriculum was gonna be like, and you know, leading up to it, I like told Zeshan like, "How do you feel about me, you know, teaching? You know, do you think I'm ready?" And I remember him telling me straight up like, "If you're gonna do it right." You know what I mean? And that really resonated with me, like with everything across the board. Like, if you're gonna session or train, then do it right. You know what I mean? If you're
You
gonna
gotta
throw
own your
events,
breaking. You gotta
yeah,
own
you
your business.
gotta own it, baby. You know, like that. Just like it goes all across the board. Like to me, it was like something so simple that a lot of people still like kind of overlook nowadays. You know what I mean? It's like just do it right. You know, like don't just do like the bare minimum. You know, like if you're doing it right, you're constantly accepting challenge, you're constantly accepting change, and you're constantly accepting and embracing just constructive criticism from people, so that you can be kind of open-minded to move forward. You know what I mean? And when he said that to me, it was like a real humbling experience, because to me, I thought he was gonna be like, nah, dude, you should not be teaching. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you are not no level to be teaching no one. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And for me, as someone that kind of looked up to Zeshan at the time, was like, oh crap, like he's not saying no. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's just like, if you're gonna do it, like do it right. And it was just so simple that it really resonates like across everything.
He
You know
gave
what I
the
mean?
old
Just
man proverb.
he did. He really gave me an old man proverb. That dude, and he wasn't even. He's younger than me, like by 1 year. You know?
Oh my god.
So to me, it was like, if I were to give advice to anyone, it's like just be real with yourself. You know what I mean? And do it for the right reasons. Like if you have these like BS reasons of doing it, don't expect much out of it. You know what I mean? If you're only doing things so that you can feel cool, then that's as far as you're gonna get. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like if that's what you're gonna stick with, like it's gotta evolve, it's gotta change, it's gotta mature in a sense. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like there are certain things that like I won't tell some of my younger students, because they're not ready for that type of mature advice. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
there's certain times where I'm like, I'll tell one of my older students and it'll kind of click. And I'm like, and they're like, oh, why didn't you tell me that to begin with? And I'm
Mhm.
like, because you wouldn't have understood it.
You were not ready.
Yeah, you were not really Padawan. You know what I mean? Like, so for anyone out there that's like trying to stick with it longevity wise, like you have to ask yourself first, like, well, why do you want to do this? You know what I mean? Like, what do you get out of it?
Mhm.
Is it just like an escape, or is it like a career choice? Whatever it is, to each his own. But for me, it was like it started off literally just trying to be cool, trying to fit in, trying to not be awkward, trying to get away from things that were really hindering me to move forward in life. And it just like grew into something where it was like, man, like I know all these people. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy to think that I failed my speech class in high school and now I throw events and I'm emceeing, like standing in front of like 500 people or X amount of people and just
Mhm.
like running a whole show.
Right.
So to me, it's like, wow, like this 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 culture, this craft has taught me more things about myself than a school or a learning educational system can do for me. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So like to me, it's like, man, this thing is like it's a living, breathing thing, and it helps me bring the best out of myself. You
Mhm.
know?
It's almost like like it's its own relationship with
Yeah,
not just
definitely.
yourself, but like a community, and then also like like a bunch of other things that come with it, all the elements of it, and all that
Yeah,
stuff. You're connected with not only like your mind, your body, your community, all the other elements. Like there's
and
so many.
it's not pretty. You know what I mean? People got to understand there's going to be hard times, there's going to be challenges, and it's going to get ugly sometimes. And you got to appreciate the fact that it comes with the territory. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like people like sometimes I'll tell my students like, all right, we're battling today, right? And then in the midst of my battle, I'll like talk smack to them, and
Hmm.
they'll get so stressed, and they're like, man, I would have done better. Like, why did you talk so much smack to me? Like, you like distracted me. And I'm like, you think everyone's gonna play by the game or by the rules? You know what I mean? Like, there is no
You
rules.
got to
You know,
learn to
you
play
need
the
to
game,
understand.
baby.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so to me, I like to tell people that like not everyone's gonna play by the rules, and you got to learn how to play the game. And it's gonna teach a lot about you. And I'll tell my students like, even if I talk smack, you better not be talking smack back to me.
Hmm.
And I'll tell them it's not a matter of respect. It's a matter of value yourself. Like if you have enough time to talk smack, breathe. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Take that
Get
freeze,
back
boy.
in the game. Yeah, take that breathe, boy. Like come on, like get back into the game, focus. And I'll tell them straight up. And some of my students have cried in front of me. And God forbid, like I hope they know I have good intentions, and they probably do because they still stuck with me. And I'm like, I tell them like, you got to push through this. It's just a mental game. It's like I get the frustration. I've been there. I've done that. I'm still there. You know what I mean? Um, but definitely like you got to know like to embrace it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like what are you really doing it for? If you want longevity, like have some real deep reasons to do it. But don't sit there and say like, oh, since I don't have deep reasons, like I'm not gonna stick with it. It's like, no, it's a journey.
Yeah.
Like you're
We all
gonna
we all
mature.
started we all started to pick up girls. We all
Yeah,
started to get windmills.
we all start to get one flare. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
let's be honest here. But it
Oh
does
yeah,
change, like, and people's perspectives change over time, and I think
definitely.
that's a sign of growth. So I think that's really good advice, like being authentic with yourself, being open for growth, and then receptive, and then just like taking ownership of your breaking.
Oh, shit. Yeah. With that
Yeah.
baby meat.
So I guess that was pretty much all my questions. Is there any shout outs or anything you'd like to say before we sign off?
Dang. I want to definitely want to give a shout out to my family, my son Philip, my wife Sunny. Like they're like the backbone and motivation to a lot of the things that I do in my life. They're kind of the reason and purpose too. So I would say motivation would probably be my wife, Sunny. She's always kind of been level-headed and telling me things, and she's had that opposite perspective, right? Not just completely extreme opposite, but like a different point of view for me. And purpose would be my son. Like I definitely want to grow up to be able to let him be able to look at me and be just proud of who I am. So definitely want to give a shout out to those two. Shout out to my crews, like Take It Easy, BTM. Texas Trick Daddies. Like these are all these people that like really like even Sick Nature, like even the younger kids here, the Kitchen Break group, even your live stream, you know, after hours, like even all my students that don't know how much of a motivation, you know, they are to me. I really want people to understand like it's full circle. You know what I mean? It really is full circle. Like it's crazy to think like I was teaching you one day and now I'm taking a live class or an online live stream watching you and trying to get better myself, you know? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so to me, it's like all the people I surround myself with, like even like people that don't break, like Amy Nom Nom, like Michelle, people that have helped me with my events, like on the side, like people that don't know these people, right? Because they're like the staff girls, or they're helping me sell shirts, or you know they're a friend of a friend, and they're helping
Mm-hmm.
me out in my events. Like I definitely want to put them
Exactly.
out there, like you know Victor Triple T. He's
Triple
helped me with
T.
every MC, like every jam. He's MC'd with me, like man, and Vince, like, bro, remember the first time we met Vince was at that like really janky, like
Oh yeah.
shady warehouse, and then I don't
Oh
even know how we got there, but you know, we met Vince that night and we talked
yeah.
to him, like all the people that I'm kind of meeting on the way. Like, I just want to give, you know, all those people. It's like such a long list of people, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I want to give them a shout out because like without those people, I would not be the person I am today. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely not the person that would have gotten this far. Like, and I'm not saying like they like kept me accountable. It's just like they were in the back of my mind. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
That's the community. And I think that's who you're doing it for too. And they're
exactly.
pouring back into you. They realize they're your value. They respect you. They're putting back, you know, and then it's like you said, it's coming full circle. So that this is like the community, whether they dance or not, you
Yeah,
know, they're people that are the backbone. And I think that's really dope.
definitely.
Yeah.
So definitely want to give a shout out to you too, Eugene. Like I appreciate you doing this. And I think this is a really good time to do these things because like one of the things that I do agree with is we need more communication. We need more conversation. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we need more perspectives just like across the board. Um, just so that we can see, you know, we can understand. We don't have to agree, but we can understand where everyone sits, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just me, bro.
Awesome.
Thanks
Choi,
for having me on, bro.
thank you so much for jumping on this first after hours webinar podcast. Guys, if you like this, drop a comment below. I don't really know. Drop a comment, whatever. And I will see you in the next one. We have a lot more coming up. So stay tuned. I will see you guys next time. Peace.